We'll call this meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Today is January 30th, 2024 at 7 o'clock. We're on room 21 on the second floor of Town Hall. Looking at your agenda that was emailed in advance, we have meeting minutes to review. We tabled from last week of January 16th, and then we have additional meeting minutes from last week. Reserve fund stands at $35,000. Public forum. Any items not on the agenda? New business. We're going to have the fiscal 25 budget meetings with the town administrator select board at 7:15 and the clerk hopefully at 7:45, but likely a little later than that. And then a discussion I put on here, a reserve fund transfer. This is something that was talked about at the DPW building committee about getting the building ready for occupation of the DPW for the armory. So that we can ask the town administrator if she's received a formal request to use funds from the reserve fund. And then old business, we have our standing items, and other business communications. We have one from Mary Beth Carter, town administrator, about fiscal year 25 annual town meeting warrant. So we'll get to that when we get to communications. And the rest of our meetings are listed there, upcoming meetings. So next Tuesday and then Wednesday is the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District budget meeting. I posted both of those meetings tonight. So if in fact we have a quorum at the Whitman-Hanson Regional School on Wednesday of next week, we'll be in compliance with the open meeting law. So there are the rest of the dates for the remainder of this budget season. And again, a reminder that 3/15 is primary election day. There'll be no meeting. And so with that, we might as well go right into where we left off with the meeting minutes from January 16th. So the pages, have they stayed the same?
Yes.
Okay. So we already really kind of looked at page 666. We really don't want to take another dive down there. So if we turn to page 667, this is where we revised, where Elizabeth took some time and tried to make sense out of our conversations, which were all over the map. So appreciated the opportunity to table the meeting minutes to get a more clear discussion on paper. So if everybody had an opportunity to look at that on page 667, we are in the meeting with, just for information, we're still in the meeting on page 667 with the technology director, Josh McNeil. And into the second paragraph, talking about computers for the library. Down in the middle of the page, we now, meeting ended with the technology director and now discussion with the town accountant. And then old business, the meeting with the town accountant was somewhat brief, but she did explain that she was giving her 2-week notice. Old business items, and then a general discussion of the fiscal 25 budget at the bottom of the page. Kathleen.
I just want to change under old business middle school building committee, second sentence, meeting but read in the paper. I'd like it to say the Whitman-Hanson Express. It's, you know.
In the paper?
Yes,
in the Whitman-Hanson?
The Whitman-Hanson Express.
Okay.
So it's old business, Whitman-Hanson Regional School District. Middle School Building Committee. The second sentence starts meeting, but read in the Whitman-Hanson Express.
Okay, she's got it. Thank you. Anybody else on that page? All right, moving on to page 660. 668 then. Still talking about the fiscal 25 budget there on the first paragraph. And then in other business, we talked about the town report. And then Don Byers made some public comment during our meeting at the end. And at 9:04, we made a motion to adjourn. Any other changes for page 668? Rosemary.
I think I missed 667 quickly. Sorry, I don't mean to. It's in years past, FY 25 budget last, Ms. Conley is requesting 5 years look back. And and it was, we have not collected new growth. And that's affected the 2.5%. So which it has not, we have not collected a true 2.5%.
Well, that's what she's written. It says, in years past, we have not been able to collect the 2.5% recommended for each department's growth.
Yeah, the new growth essentially was the aspect that we didn't collect correctly, so should we tell?
Do you want me to put new growth instead of growth?
Yeah, new growth. We will not be able to collect the new, we have no, we've been able to. We have not collected. We were always able to. We did not collect the new growth. Therefore, we did not meet a true 2.5%.
Well, she just adds the word new. I think that's what that sentence says.
No. She's saying it differently.
We did not collect the available new growth. So
2.5 recommended for each department's new growth.
Yeah, and then so this,
Well,
this.
Are we talking? I hear what you're saying, but there's two parts here which
Yes.
is making it confusing.
Yes, the first section.
Are we talking about new growth, new department growth, or are we talking about
Town new growth.
town growth?
Mary Beth, you could say, yeah.
So say it was $1 million new growth. We didn't collect the 2.5% of that. That rolls forward every single year.
Okay, so you got two growths in here.
Yes, we do.
In years past, we have not been able to collect the 2% from new town growth
Thank
to meet the departmental growth,
Yes.
right?
Perfect. That's it.
It's
That's it. Did you get
it's
that?
the double growth screws you up.
It does. They're two different things here.
All
So
right, Michael, can you start the sentence again?
In past years, we have not been able to collect.
no, we have been able to. We have not.
We have not collected new growth. Now
To meet the
to meet
the true
to
2.5%.
to meet the true 2.5%. No. Sorry.
No, you just said it correctly.
You know what?
How about a failure to collect?
I would recommend let's look at what I said before.
Yes.
We're happy with what was said. It is on the recording. That's perfect.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
So what Mike said before.
We're just finishing up the meeting minutes for everyone that
I'm
just came
early,
in.
right?
Yeah.
We're early, so.
So just go, then page 668, is everybody happy with that? All right, so I will then entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes from January 16th as amended.
Sorry, pause. 668, the economic engine represented as it stabilizes our EQV.
On page 668?
Yes, so it says the
last
discussion, it's the last sentence, the discussion emphasizes the importance of the investment in the economic engine represented, because the school is in a town that you don't have any under 30%. I'll explain it later, but it stabilizes the EQV, the equalized values of the town. So
So do you want to just add at the end, it destabilizes the EQV in
you're
the
not
town?
having, the economic engine represented by the schools is stabilized, which stabilizes the EQV.
Yep.
The school essentially stabilizing the EQV.
Yep.
Did you get that? So can I just say one more time, when we are looking at the meeting minutes in advance of the meeting,
I did
if we
have
can write out the requested amendment in advance, it would really help this process move quicker.
I did, but it didn't make sense when everybody said it.
So she still doesn't have it. You wouldn't have, you want to give that to me? Is it written?
As it stabilizes our EQV.
Oh, at the end.
Yeah.
Just comma, as it stabilizes our EQV. Okay, very good. Now I'll entertain a motion to accept January 16th meeting minutes as amended.
Okay, so moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstained. John Noon is abstaining. He was absent. Okay. We will wait on the meeting minutes from last week, and we'll get right into the budget discussion. The town administrator. And just looking around the room, we have, thank you for coming. We have representatives from our financial team here. Thank you very much for coming. So what we'll do is, I don't think we need to go around the table. Everybody that's here, you know. Town Administrator Select Board budget starts on page 1. It is Department 2 that we start off on, right? And the line 111 is the first line that,
Is that printed out by chance?
this,
Yeah, because I don't found that.
Actually, I brought you one.
Thank you.
Pass those on.
okay?
And actually, I'll take one if I could. Yeah.
Okay, so there are various departments associated with the Town Administrator Select Board. So I have, just as my notes, I have, I'll just quickly read the departments. Department 2, Town Administrator Select Board. Department 3 for the FinCom. Department 4, Reserve Fund. Department 19, Animal Control, which was tabled from last meeting. Department 29, which is the Miscellaneous Community Services. Department 35, which is Townwide Services. And that should be all of the departments, unless I missed any.
Nope.
So all the other departments have presented, with the exception of the Whitman Hanson Regional School District, who will be in next week. So if you want to go through the budgets for each of those, and we'll leave it up to you whether you want to entertain questions for each department, or would you rather wait to the end? That'll be totally up to you.
Probably for each department as
Okay.
we go along. I think it might be better.
All right.
Makes sense.
Very good.
Okay. So for the selectmen's budget, the town administrator, 3%, that's contractual. And then the assistant town administrator and the administrative assistant, I put in at 2.5%, along with the recording secretary. Level funded, the municipal hearings officer, the education expense, the sick leave incentive, and the longevity I decreased by $450. And then the assistant department head stipend stays the same, level funding that at $32.50. The expense line I did increase. We did run over on that last year by a few $100s, and expenses and things are up. So I just put $1,000 more there. And then the pilot I decreased from $6,000 to $5,500. And one of the items is just the bill from last year was at $4,800. Not sure will that will come in. So this budget, pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Any
I
questions?
initially said no to the paper copy, but my computer has different numbers, so.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want one of these copies?
I
There's plenty there, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just had a quick question on the pilot program. That's a reimbursable program from the federal
That's
government.
my copy. Oh, here, you take that and I'll take one out of the bill. Thanks.
So Rosemary, your question is referring to line
Payment in lieu of
99?
Taxes is a reimbursable program from the federal government, the same one that we see for veterans, correct?
This money comes from the town of Rockland.
Oh, yes, it's a reimbursable federal program. The town of Rockland is submitting it for us, is that right? Pilot program.
No.
Payment in lieu of taxes for the Alice Carlton land?
That's right.
Yeah, payment in lieu of taxes, from my understanding, and I'll review it again, is a program that's a reimbursable program from the federal government for keeping green lands within your green.
Also, are you asking, have we sought the reimbursement?
So yes, it is this is part of the reimbursement. Have we sought our reimbursement? So the payment that we've done.
I'm gonna think that we've not.
Okay, so just quickly, when I'm reading the pilot program, I'll keep reviewing this, and we can go and do this with council.
Sure.
But municipalities are allowed to have land that they own, but I read at no point is it required to be in the boundaries of your town. So the municipality can own land and it's reimbursable to the municipality. So why are we not filing for reimbursement of our own?
Oh, I'll look into that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just for me, just starting on line 133. So the handout that we received was the town administrator's recommended budget. That listed for line 133 a 0.86% increase. Is there a reason why it's now 2.5, or is there a reason why it was 0.86?
So are you going back to the 12.5?
Yeah.
That's when we just, I
Right,
think,
well, this is what, would you say that this was your submitted budget then? Right, we're looking
No.
at your submitted budget from,
this is, that wasn't, that scenario that we did back in December was just basically level funding. And, it might have, did have 2.5% at
Yeah, it
that
did.
time.
Yeah.
It had 2.5. The contract for the second and third year is 3 years.
okay.
Is 3%, I'm sorry.
So yours, that's 111. I was referring to 133, the assistant town administrator. For some reason, you only had it as a 0.86% increase
That was,
in the initial pass.
okay, nope, it is the
Okay.
102,500, oops.
Wasn't that because it was prorated? The person was hired halfway through the year?
Oh, goodness, so I just lost connection.
Oh, you're in the finance committee room.
No, now
Oh,
we get to
don't
that.
tell me.
Yeah, we have no internet in here. We've never had internet.
Technology to get this.
And why
place
is
wired.
that?
Well, if you want to
I think
use the
it's on the
version
list.
from the technology department, we need to run a wire from that room up in the ceiling and drop it somewhere over there.
I think it's pretty important that we have
Yeah, we do
this
too.
here.
We did bring it up with the director of technology.
Several
Okay.
times, several years.
Okay, well, we'll bring it up again.
My old job.
Yep.
So you have a hotspot. Can she hook onto that or somehow?
Well, that's, I mean, let's see if I can get in now.
I don't think you'll be able to. We have no internet connection.
I'm in. Let's
Oh,
see.
good. Hopefully it stays.
Wired
see.
a little outlet over here.
Rick, I have something real quick.
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
I did hear you guys' conversation about the educational expense, right?
Right.
That might just be something to mention now for Maribeth to hear, that the feedback from the technology department was that they would like more funds in the educational expense line. And, you know, if it were
I could stay in.
possible to increase that line would be helpful.
Yeah, well, I think we're going to get to that too. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. That's
it's
part of
not
our
just
discussion.
the IT. It would be 7,000 for everybody's expense. We'd have to.
That is a pretty
That
small
is,
amount for all.
And I
all
think a
departments.
review back on before 5 years ago, it was pulled back from a much larger amount. Maybe a review and roll forward.
So since we're on that line, Sean, thanks for bringing it up. Line 712. So educational expense. So what I have for a question is how much was expended in this line for last fiscal year?
And I do have all that, but we had, let me see if I have it right here. No. Kathy, that's all. Laura came in
Okay,
and hit us, but that whole packet is down there with all the, I can take a peek here. I just took a peek this way.
yeah, let me zip down there.
Um,
It's on the table?
It's on the table, yeah, but I can bring up a report here.
So maybe while she's trying to pull that up, Sean, maybe you can answer how many departments compete for the utilization of that training line, do you know?
I don't know. I just listened to your conversation. I thought it was a good point that it should be on our radar of things to pay attention to.
Right.
I'm not saying this is the particular year, or maybe it is, but it's something that we should actively be looking at for sure.
Okay, thank you.
I can't.
All right, well, that's all right.
I have nothing
We can
here.
table
I
it.
have nothing, but normally, so this year, I know that the town clerk's office has used it for Michael.
Mhm.
I believe they used it last year. The accountant was going to use it this year. So yes, it's used by the selectman's office, the selectmen.
It seems to be just in years of conversation with departments as they come in, it seems like it's a really good kept secret that that's a place for departments to utilize for training. That's
Oh.
all. Because we've referred departments to that line when they didn't have a sufficient amount in their budget to get the accreditation they needed.
Yeah.
So that is something I think we should just take a look at for the future for policy.
One of the things that you'll see is under the expenses for most of the departments that have come through is they have educational or certification charges there. So if you were to look across the budget, it's in the tens of thousands of dollars we're spending, but we have a $7,000 ID right here, which makes us think we're spending seven. We're not. We're spending, like I said, tens of thousands of dollars on certification education.
So what, I'm sorry, did you want to see one line that encompasses all?
We should have a decision one way or the other. Either it does say that this is the line for education, all departments, right? That's what the line says, but it's not. There are other lines in department budgets underneath expenses, so it does not come to the top of the line, so it's easily missed.
So you think this is somebody
I
looking
think
at
we should
that
make a
would-
decision. If this
Yeah,
is all
this
departments,
is a
it should be all
policy.
departments. And then they submit to you to say, we would like this to be added in.
And then
maybe
reduce all their budgets by the amount that they
transition it over, into the central.
something we can look into.
It allows you to also monitor for fairness between the departments, and some of the departments do have higher requirements. I'm sure our fire and
Oh,
police
of
are
course
way up
they
there.
do.
To monitor
Absolutely.
those, monitoring those
But right now, they're having
requirements.
to use maybe money that they could use for firefighters' outfits to pay for the educational expenses.
Okay, any other questions on Department 2, Select Board and Department 2 Selectmen budget? Okay,
Okay,
Department 3, Finance Committee, we're just level funded,
so
so
that's what I did.
John
Okay.
has a
that's fine with us.
John has a question.
Oh, sorry, John.
Hi, John.
Blocking them.
I've probably asked this in the past, or somebody else has. Longevity, who's getting it?
So they've taken that clause out of the town hall contract, but for people that were grandfathered in, when they hit certain years, they get a longevity stipend, as well as, I believe, Don Barley gets one as well. And I have a breakdown on that I can send to you.
Okay, so this is
That
all
the one
departments?
that has been taken back?
No, that's not the
She said-
555.
All right.
No, separate from that.
Okay, and then the Lexington provision that's still kicking around in another
That's
department.
555.
That was years ago. I was told that was the last contract that had it in, and that should have been taken out. But they're coming up, and I will make sure that that's out of that one.
Negotiations are down the hall, though.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
As opposed to at the DPW.
It's
They have their own
DPW
board, I
contract
thought.
that has the,
Right. So we will be negotiating. It will be an item when the next contract comes up. It will be an item for discussion.
okay.
Okay, so the contract isn't negotiated with the DPW board?
It is well.
I thought that's, when you have a board, it's similar, it's a separate.
Yeah, but the DPW does negotiate with the.
Well, the DPW is pointing at you guys
Right, and I think that.
and saying you're doing the negotiating.
And I think that it is. Yes.
Okay.
So when that comes up for the contract, that is a clause in there that I was told years ago was being taken out. Evidently, I think there's been, I know there's been a change at the helm, and I think that might have just slipped through the cracks that last go around. It might have been maybe after Frank, but
Thank you.
it's on my radar as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. So we're moving on to Department number 4, which is the reserve fund.
Okay.
Excuse me.
I have to put that in. I can't get, like you said, I can't get.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I just thought that would be so much easier. It's up now at the moment.
Welcome to the Finance Committee Boondocks.
At a better time.
35 I had just.
35, yep. So
Okay.
we're gonna level fund that, reserve fund. So that's gonna actually be another item to talk about. I guess we could talk about it now, because we're still waiting for more information to come up from downstairs. So the reason I put on the agenda, actually a discussion about a reserve fund transfer, was just because we had the discussion at the DPW Building Committee that the Armory may need work done to get the DPW in there, and there was no mechanism for a funding source, as you recall from the last Building Committee
That's
meeting.
right, that's right.
So have you received any formal requests?
Have not.
Okay, so maybe that's something we should get moving on, and we could consider this as the meeting that we're bringing it up to hold it over, if
Okay.
in fact there's a need. It would seem like the time is going to be of the essence to get that building
Okay,
ready for them.
Absolutely.
So now, if you do get a formal request from them and we can get it into next week, we could actually act on it.
We don't have to wait again. Okay.
Right. That's
very
why I
good.
put it on the agenda.
Very good. So DPW, reserve fund transfer, and that's Armory.
It seemed like it was definitely a necessity for them to get some things going, so. Okay, so
Okay.
that's it for the reserve fund. Anybody else have any questions on the reserve fund? It's kind of a straightforward budget. And now we could get into Department 19, Animal Control.
So with the animal control, this was a pretty straightforward, although I do want to tell you about some recent developments. The 2.5% on the animal control officer budget. That's for 2 animal control officers, the day and the evening. Laura, Howe, and Joe. And Laura wants me to let you all know she really appreciates all the time that you put in to this job as a finance committee member. And then I just level funded the expense in the animals, removal of dead animals. Pretty simple budget here. However, Laura and Joe, Laura is scheduled for 19 hours, Joe is scheduled for 16 hours. In Hanson, Joe also is the ACO, he's scheduled for 16 hours. And in Abington, Joe is the ACO, also scheduled part-time. Laura and Joe would both like to be made benefit-eligible employees at 25 hours a week. I am not recommending that at this time because it's not a growth year. The ACOs in the other towns are part-time. However, I have met with the Abington town administrator and the Hanson town administrator, and we're talking about an intermunicipal agreement for 2 full-time to cover the 3 towns. So we've just had an initial discussion. I'm meeting again with them next week. And this is something that I hope that we could work out if we could. It would be an article in all 3 towns. And, you know, I have to run this, of course, by the Board of Selectmen, and everyone has to be in agreement. It may be aggressive for May. However, I would like to see if we could do something like that. But otherwise,
These are going to be the numbers.
this is what I'm, yes.
So do you have another handout for?
Oh, I do. Yes, I do. I do.
A question about the 19 hours.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, just a question. You're saying that both of them do 19 hours, right?
No, one does 19 and one
One
does
does
16.
19, does 16.
Correct.
Both on, so how do we handle on-call? Like, do we have on-call 24 hours?
Yes.
Okay. So, but they're,
So pretty much Laura does
Is there
the
any
day
extras?
and Joe does the evenings.
Joe does the evenings.
And they cover each other whenever they're on vacation or away, or
They cover each other.
and they Laura covers in the other towns.
Yeah, and
Joe.
is she in a managerial position? Is that what, just out of, so she has a salary, but she has a salary with a part-time salaried position. And the reason I'm asking is, there's no budget here that she's handling, and is she hiring and firing anybody?
She's not a department head.
She is not a department head.
No, correct. Joe is not a department head. They work under the town administrator. Correct.
And they work under, they are
That's
not.
why we're
yeah.
recommending the budget rather than.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. You know, in years past, we've had that's been a gray area.
Okay.
Even.
That's the way I
No,
understood it to be. You know, when I
and
came in. And,
yeah, and that's reflected in who signs the.
Correct.
Yeah, and she had come in last year,
Oh, okay. That was.
and that was very stressful.
A couple years ago.
Was it a couple of years ago? Yeah, it was.
Last year.
Oh yeah, the year before it was.
All right, so Michael.
Yep, so a kind of a follow-up. We talked with our health department, and there was some concern about potential costs involved in the cows returning to Hornstra Farms. Is there any potential impact for the animal control office? There could be additional pests if you're bringing, lots of feed in for those animals, et cetera. That could attract, vermin and rats and things like that. Are there any thoughts from the department on might we see an increase in the need?
Have not Laura has not brought that up to me or Joe. I have not heard that yet. I don't know when the cows will even come back. I did speak with John Lundström the other day, and he said, I don't even have any cows there yet. So that's all, unknown. I know that in prior years there has been, some money. They're very careful with their budget, and I think that if they get some services, they're just very good with it. So they have turned back money. So usually that's why I'm not increasing anything. They do have a little bit extra in their budget. But I think that would have to be a wait and see type of thing. But I will have that discussion with Laura.
I think it's worth the conversation
Sure,
because we are now a right to farm community. There
That's right.
could be people all over the town could bring up their own goats, chickens, and obviously there's potential there. So it might be worth just doing a little chat and just saying, forecast us ahead, a year, 2 years, 3 years. What are you seeing in growth in that space? Will that affect our need for people to be on duty? It also might affect the conversations you have with the other towns. All right,
Very good.
thank you.
Thanks.
Kathleen?
And my question is not specific to this budget, but to the department. I've read a report that the dog pound needs to be repaired.
Mm-hmm.
Who would advocate for that?
So that would be me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have talked to Laura about that. And I did talk to, and I don't want to get into all the details of the meeting because it's just a very basic discussion right now. But in speaking with Abington and Hanson, we need a dog pound. They need 2 vehicles. We need their salary and benefits covered. So we just purchased a new vehicle, not a brand new one, but a vehicle. The best out of the 3 towns. Hanson does have a vehicle, an older vehicle, and Abington does not have a pound. Hanson was thinking of reopening their pound. We do have a pound that I would like to see, especially with a new DPW there. I would like to see some money put into that and, just bring that up, whether it's those costs are shared by the other 2 towns or so it's part of the discussion.
It's on somebody's horizon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Just a note, that was an Eagle project from Scouts in Town that rebuilt that about 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
No cost
You built
to the
it?
town. Yes.
Oh, my
from the ground up.
goodness. Wow, I
They
did
had
not
to tear down
realize
what was
that.
there. It was completely destroyed.
I
So
did not realize
it may be an option for us to reach out to the same group and see if they have another scout who might be interested in taking that on.
And I even thought South Shore Tech or, there are other
Actually,
options.
he was in South Shore Tech, which may make great, but
Right.
yeah.
Right. Well, okay.
Rosemary?
There was I think it was Ms. Howe or her affiliate,
Joe Kenny?
Joe Kenny had mentioned Lakeville has made the use of their pound profitable or through a regional and a good building. So and it was years ago they had mentioned that is some broader ideas on how that department is running. Maybe a review of that, they'll know more about it. It was just in passing, but maybe asking them.
I believe, I'm not
It
sure.
might have been Lakeville. I think it was Lakeville. They
That several towns use the Lakeville
Lakeville
shelter.
shelter,
That's right.
and that they charged those other towns and offset the cost.
So maybe as an intermediary,
Yeah, but like I said, I think Joe and Laura are more versed on that side. It was just remembering a conversation that they had had.
okay. Any other questions on animal control? All right, seeing none, I believe the next department, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm moving to
No, that's okay.
Department 35, Townwide Services. And anybody else, if you see that I missed something,
I vote on 29.
miscellaneous community services.
Yep.
That's a good one. Oh, actually, that was on my list. Department 29, miscellaneous community services.
Okay, let me see.
So you have Whitman Will,
Oh, yeah.
and then you have Plymouth County 4-H.
Right, and I just level funded those.
Level funded, 9,500.
Correct.
Both the same, okay?
Yes.
Now, Department 34 is on page 8, OPEB.
Okay, and I have a few here as well that I wanted to mention, but
Okay?
do you want me to go in order?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I have Boat Tech. Just to give you an update there, these numbers are not, we don't have the final numbers in yet, so these are not final by any means. but let me just pass around some information here. For you. Okay, so let's see.
Department 20.
South Shore VOTEC. I did call Tom Hickey today. I had a number plugged in there, and I gave him a call and said, you know, can you give me the most accurate number possible? He said I would figure on a $190,000 increase.
Yeah.
So we had 160 there before.
That's right.
Right.
Still on the hold harmless. We lost. Well, actually, it was a diversion. If we had didn't have as many kids going over to vote deaf, we'd be out of the hold harmless for Devon.
Actually, you can pass those.
Last
Sean,
year we
you can
had
distribute
more
that.
kids and our assessment went down.
It wasn't an issue of more kids, and not only that, if our public school has
Might as well get
better
those up.
enrollment, vocational money goes up too. So it's based on the overall amount of children within our educational, because that chapter 70 goes to the town. So what's happening is that we're not doing anything to invite children in, and that hold harmless is not giving us the advantage of the state is increasing a lot of money towards schools, and that hold harmless is making us so that we're just really don't have the advantage of. It's really
I
crippling
thought
us.
we were coming out of home.
We weren't going to come out of hold harmless because
Right.
the reason we jumped up was because we made full-time students out of half-time students. So, and we haven't taken anything to sort of draw children or families into our educational system. This is where, in the last week's meeting, I said, this is a stabilizing, it stabilizes our EQV. So you look at towns that, and I'm going to say Belmont, but I'm not talking about their wealth index. I'm talking about their, you know you're going to have a good education when you go to Belmont school. Their people go, when people are going to buy in a town, they say, I want good schools, right? If we don't have anything but, we don't have a lot of industry, we only have schools. Schools are our economic engine. That's how we stabilize. That's how we stabilize the whole EQV of the town, the whole value. So we'll have fluctuating values as the market goes down for towns. That's not going to help us with our borrowing. Additionally, we're not going to have the attraction for enrollment. Right? We don't want to. We have so many towns within 20 miles from Boston that have increasing enrollment. Why aren't we part of that? 20 miles from Boston with declining enrollment it should be a huge red flag for people. It's a problem.
Well, I think that is a big issue, but we gotta just kind of.
But it affects us. It affects us totally because not being out of hold harmless is costly. It's costly.
Right. But just for the budget discussion, we're just gonna kind of.
This is it. For
encapsulate.
VOTEC. It's costly for VOTEC too.
Right.
I have a quick comment.
Go ahead.
I did go over to South Shore VOTEC on Thursday, the subcommittee meeting about the regional agreement. And he is putting together an amendment that I think he's going to push sooner rather than later. He seemed pretty prepared, and the subcommittee members were really supportive of it. So that could be a really big deal for us.
Absolutely, because we need to either shift the towns back to taking all of the students that they're eligible to take, or pay a premium for the fact that they don't.
Yeah.
I think that should be part of the agreement.
That's a great point, because when we enter into an agreement and we are part of we're part of a group of towns that say yes, we're supporting this vocational option, right? This is something we believe in. Just like if you you're a member town, there's a percentage of your population that you're sending there. If you don't meet that percentage and you rely on other towns to pick up on it, that brings them into a point. Remember, this is outsourced. This is just like any program that you would have. You don't legally have to have a vocational school at all. So if you have a percentage of anything that's outsourced that doubles your allotment is a general idea of like below this amount, we really don't need to insource it. We're doubled that, and then they're talking about tripling it. There's only 3 towns that are going to be that are actually meeting their allotted amounts. 3 out of the whole district. That's not. You shouldn't be thinking about growing at this large number. That would be putting such a burden on Whitman to sort of subsidize. So, when those other towns said, yeah, we're going to be part of this agreement, they should be fulfilling their allotments, not having us fill their children. If I get a gym membership, right?
Whether you use it or not.
Will I
doesn't
use it or not? It doesn't matter. It's the same price. The same with the allotment. A percentage of your thing. This is what you're responsible for. Because the only correlation I'm seeing is it's not that children are more apt to be vocational because they're from Whitman. It's because I see a correlation of the lowest funded public schools are the ones that have kids with the higher vocational output. So it really has nothing to do with where the students want to go. It's the only option. You're driving children out of public through your funding.
So, good point, and I'm glad that the committee is looking at some alternatives, because this is gonna be a huge cost for us, if nothing is done, yeah.
Well,
Interesting.
there's
So
a
we
tipping
can-
point. You in-house it. It's not a huge cost. It's way past the point where it's at a tipping point if we do this, where we should be in-housing these services. If vocational is really what people want, then we in-house vocational services. When you've doubled your allotment and you're about to triple your allotment, then you have vocational services like Weymouth in your schools.
That's one way to do it, yeah. Michael?
Those are the
No, so
numbers.
a question here is, so I'm used to outsourcing, pretty much what you just said is, I signed a contract, this is my minimum payment into the system, whether I use that or not doesn't matter. My understanding that that's not the case with the vocational? So if Town X said, we're gonna take 10% of the spots, we therefore will pay 10% of the piece, they send 3 kids, they only pay 1%, they don't pay the 10%?
It's on enrollment right now, that's the way it's
Wow,
based. So,
okay.
if it's gotta be changed, it has to go through
Okay.
the agreement
Thank you.
subcommittee.
That's what was throwing me, is
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it's based upon that agreed amount.
Whitman Hanson it is. Whitman Hanson each year, it's based on the current enrollment in it.
But South Shore Votech is not.
South Shore VOTEC is based on 8th grade enrollment, and what percent
The allotment
the
is.
total 8th grade of the 8-town district the Whitman town represents, and we represent 11 to 12%, and we're sending 25% of the students. We have 25% of the South Shore VOTEC. That's twice as many kids as we are allotted. So we fill in the spots that Cohasset, Norwell, and Situate aren't filling,
Yes.
with no cap. But
That's
we still have spaces.
I'm okay with that, but my challenge is that if they're part of this system, they should be paying it. Whether they use it or not is
Yeah,
not my
I hear you.
concern.
That's not,
That's their job then to push that program within their towns
Thank you.
and fill up the seats that they've agreed
Right.
to, or renegotiate it the next time. They don't have.
They're not doing the promotion that Whitman's doing.
Yeah.
I think maybe if you don't meet your allotment, then you pay the out-of-district price. If you're part of this agreement, then
Whatever.
And that might be
Something.
part of the negotiation,
Yeah.
an amendment too, so. All right, so we definitely know that there's
Okay.
an issue there, and
yeah.
we're not gonna solve it in this meeting.
These are significant increases from what was originally, and I know December
Absolutely.
5th was like, all right, based on what we know
Level.
now.
We just leveled, right?
Yeah.
Right. So even the numbers for the other vocational schools were 374.
Yep.
And now it's 443.
That's right. So with that, Norfolk Aggie, we had 3 students go, 3 new students go into Norfolk Aggie as freshmen this year. There are no seniors at Norfolk Aggie from Whitman that are rotating out. So in this budget line, I just took the 316,260, added 3 students because we had 3 go in this year, and I added 5% for a tuition increase. That's what they suggested that we add. For Bristol Aggie, we had nobody last year. This year we have 1 student, and that 1 student they said to add anywhere from $200 to $400 per student. So I added 1 student and the $400 increase. Now with Bristol Aggie, there's also an assessment that we will have. The odd thing about Bristol Aggie is, while we have 1 student there this year, they're not going to bill us until next year. So they bill in arrears,
Completion. Okay.
which is different. So the other thing to consider is when I take a look down at if I can move this, which I can't, the transportation.
Station, right?
Right. So last year we had budgeted 52,000. we have one student for that Bristol County student that we have to get to the school. Hanson had 2 going to Bristol Aggie. That one student is $19,499 to take that one student from Whitman to Bristol. Now, we could have another student that goes from Bristol that will also need that transportation. So, and then we put a little increase on that as well. So we're waiting for some numbers to come back from the company that we use right now. But yes, this is, even this year, we are short in transportation. However, we will have a little bit of money left over in the vocation line, so I can do a year-end transfer at the end. We may still be $300 short that I'll have to transfer from somewhere else. But yes, the VOTEC is up quite a bit. And
Right.
the Bristol Aggie transportation was a big cost.
And I remember we talked about the transportation issue, if you remember, when we had that early meeting with the superintendent, Whitman Hanson. Remember, we talked about the cost of transportation.
And would like them to handle that, because they handle, the other.
Right.
So hopefully that will work.
It'd be cheaper to use an Uber than it would be that system.
Buy the family a car.
Yes.
Or offer the
Yeah.
parents.
You could do Uber for $9,000.
Yeah. Kathleen, you had a comment?
I'm assuming, and I may be completely out on left field, that these 4 students are participating in vocational programs that are not available at South Shore.
I don't know if they are.
We're not privy to that.
No, we're not given that, and I don't know that we could say no. It's their choice to be able to go to those schools.
Right, you can't tell them.
That you can't.
Okay, so,
School choice program.
so,
Wait a second.
yeah.
So who decides where the kids go to school, other than the parents, obviously? But
The parents, and Jeff gives us the information.
so if we have a program at South Shore VOTEC, but this student would prefer to go to the same program at Bristol or Norfolk Aggie,
I believe they can. School choice.
School choice, yeah. Doesn't have to make sense. It's
It doesn't.
okay, I'm done.
It just can't be a private school, I believe.
Okay, well, first of all, you participate in school choice, right? So it would be participating, that's voted in by a school committee. You don't have to participate in school choice. So,
The receiving town doesn't have.
the
The
receiving,
sending town can't prevent kids from going.
they can't prevent kids from going. Now, this is my question here. Do we have to pay for charter school transportation?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
No.
So why would, what makes it different? Do we have to pay for a kid if they're going to Abington, if they school choice? So what makes Aggie different?
The vocational schools, we do have to, and I've talked to Jeff about this. It's a requirement that we have to get them there.
I think that's why there's a line item in our budget
That's
for it.
right.
No,
It is
if
If it wasn't a
this is-
requirement, it
this
wouldn't be a
isn't-
line item. So, if there's alternatives, I'm sure we could study them,
Just
but
wanted to understand what makes
I'd like
that
the citing.
requirement. Yeah, I'd like this to cite the law that requires us to do this, but just so that to make sure we're not doing it correctly for others. Maybe more kids are supposed to be or not, but just I would like to understand that. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So,
Okay.
anything else on budget 20?
Exactly. You just double check it's not there.
Okay, whatever one you have next.
Okay, so let's take a look if I can flip my. This is so frustrating.
Welcome to our world.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
That's why we're paper dependent here.
Oh, I see.
Kathleen is the only one that has a computer,
I have to
well,
pull
other than
everything
our
up on my desktop
recording
before I
secretary has a
go into the room.
hotspot.
Right, I see why. Okay, anyway.
Just on a Word document.
For the Whitman Hanson, can I talk about that for just a minute?
Be nice.
Okay, so the operating expense, I left at the 5%. That's, what I've been saying all along, and had conversations with Jeff and so forth. So I didn't change that, haven't gotten anything official.
Do you want to hand those out?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
You left it at the 5% of what?
5% of last year's assessment.
Okay.
Operating system.
Operating assessment. So I want to recognize that Aggie asked you for 5% of the operating assessment or 5% of their total assessment. When they told you 5%, they said to add, or the other town did, Okay, I'll.
Oh, the Bristol Aggie, I added 5% to their assessment.
You added.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that we're waiting for information to come back from the school.
Okay.
And then, let's see, the non-mandated busing, that number, I have an email out to Jeff. That's just level funded from last year. That's changing, of course. Don't know what that is. The debt service has gone down a little bit as we get closer to the end of the debt schedule. That's the high school debt. So there's a reduction there. The feasibility study project, that is coming due in May or June. And if I could get into the computer, I could tell you the number, but I believe it's like 401,331. Let me take a peek. That is coming due for the feasibility study. It may even be less than that if we get another reimbursement in from MSBA, according to John Stanbrook. However, I would like to, and I've mentioned this to the selectmen before, but once I have a final number, we'll, take a look and vote on that, have the board vote. But it's 401,331 that I think makes sense to take out of the ARPA.
So that's gonna be to fund the, WMS feasibility study project line item, $999?
Correct. And that will come due, and then that's it. And then we'll just have the new debt when the debt goes out with a band that rolls into a bond.
So you think that's gonna be a warrant article?
For the, no,
No.
probably won't need to be.
Okay.
Because it's ARPA, so no.
ARPA funds.
It's a one-time fund.
One-time
Right.
fund. And I think it's a good use of the one-time funds. And then the crossing guards, I just did the 2.5%. So I do know that, the operating expense and the non-mandated busing, those are not final, as you know, never until April or so. So those will be changing without a doubt. I also called Ken, and he's here, to verify the 380,726. And as your latest information is saying that's the most up to date, right? Or are you waiting for John?
John, I couldn't reach him by voicemail or email, but I guess someone had, I guess the school presented their budget a few weeks ago at a school committee meeting. And
Okay.
they mentioned the percent allocation there. So I guess if I can find that meeting and listen to it and find it, that might be my quickest way
There's a document.
to get it.
I was at the meeting, and it was a very brief discussion about a piece of paper. There's a document on the Whitman Hanson website that I'll send you that tells you it's very superficial, not detailed at all.
Well, what I usually do when I was the treasurer would have John, and before him Christine Sukow or whomever, send me the breakdown of the total debt payment with the percentage applied for Whitman, a percentage for Hanson, showing the exact number from them so that we double check, and have that in the budget correctly, the exact breakdown on the total debt, and then our share. So he should be able to get you that for backup, rather than just an email. I always ask them for the calculation. Okay?
Okay, I have a question.
Yep.
This is not just for this line item, it's for debt, excluded debt in general.
Yes, I saw your email.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do we, because I'm assuming that the high school debt is excluded. There's a
Correct.
debt exclusion for the high school. And
Correct.
we definitely have a debt exclusion for the middle school
Correct.
as well as the DPW building. How is that kept off of Article 2 and the levy limit? So that we're not saying we hit the levy limit because of, let's say, the debt.
So, and Kathy can explain this as the assessor, but I, as a treasurer collector, always filled out what's called a DE1 form, and that shows the debt exclusion. So it's been the police station and it has been the school. But you're correct, it will have the DPW, 17.8 million. It will have the Whitman Middle School. Showing up on there. So any other debt that we have for debt exclusion will be on there. But that is on the recap that is added after.
Right, so, you look at, you get from Prop 2.5, you get to add that right out of the gate.
Yep.
In any new growth.
Yep.
That's your levy limit. But your maximum allowable levy, you get to then add the debt.
Okay, so when we have this one document, that at the bottom it says total Article 2, then you subtract Article 2 less water and sewer. Where is our, and so initially, Mary Beth, you had a projected deficit of about $260,000.
Oh, the original.
Yeah.
We're way over that.
Oh, I know that, but where in this, so this summary doesn't really address the taking the debt out of. out of the summation.
If I could bring up my sheet, and I can't.
No, you can't. Not in this room.
No, I can't. Not in this room.
You tried a hotspot?
No.
Just from your phone? I do that?
No. I don't use a hotspot.
You have a very hard.
It's pretty bad.
Okay, I think that I can say, I don't need an answer
Okay.
tonight. I don't need an answer tonight, but I do want to
Okay.
see the tax rate recap that shows where, on whatever document that
Oh.
shows, here's with the
Do you want to
levy.
show yours? I have one here.
Yeah, and, yeah, so, um,
I don't have copies for everyone, but I can show you here.
come on over, so, yeah. So,
So this
that was how the tax rate got set.
Usually at the end of the
That's the
budget
tax levy.
season, we get the summary sheet,
This
and
sheet
that's where it's spelled
tells
out.
us
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
where
So I do
the
the
debt is.
DD1 and then
this
it's
allows us
added
to
back.
tax
to give
up
us-
to that amount.
It's
As you
in the
can see,
total.
that's just
That's
shy
the
of
number.
that.
Right,
That's the excess
because the
levy.
question in the meeting last week was,
So
we
if I
see
answered it, so
debt service
the year
within
before.
Article 2, and we're trying to figure out
That's
how you
the
can
other side.
override and then incorporate it into Article 2,
So
as opposed to
where in this massive paper is the.
when we
high
had the
school
police
debt and
station
police station
outside the
debt.
It's in the
inside the
T1.
Inside the levy.
That's
Here.
it,
Right.
yeah, I have it.
Inside the levy, so we
Right
weren't
here.
raising
And
people's
then that
taxes and it
ties
wasn't
into-
showing
so
in the
here's the
revenue.
DE1 that gets filled out.
Right?
Right.
Because we didn't
Okay.
increase
It's right
taxes,
there.
it had to come out of our budget.
Then we add
But
it
now, as a debt
the levy
exclusion,
limit
it gets
Yep.
to
calculated.
then come up with the
again,
maximum
recap.
allowable.
And that's gonna
Thank
be
you.
spread out.
Okay, is that
Yep,
do it?
I'm done.
Yep, okay, good, good.
And we're gonna get that through taxes.
All right,
and we
you're
pay it out through the Article 2.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm good.
You good?
Okay, great.
All right, that was a little bit of a discussion on debt service, right? But does anybody have any other questions regarding Department 21, Whitman Hanson Regional School District? We do have them coming in next week.
Okay.
I don't think we're gonna get a full disclosure of the budget because they're meeting the next day, so.
I had a question. You just said that you were speaking to Jeff about the busing for Aggie. Is there a reason it's going through Jeff for the regional school?
I think it was just a general
No,
discussion.
just general discussion, how difficult it was to find busing for this one student. And they handle all the busing. They have a transportation department. A matter of fact, we called them to get a vendor. So he was very helpful with that.
Is he doing the Chapter 74 non-resident option or essentially? Because I'm just reading.
There's
it.
7 different programs for it, yeah.
Yeah.
Are we being reimbursed for any of this?
Well, that was that's what Lisa and I are trying to work on to get reimbursed for that. Currently, no. And I asked Jeff, why aren't we? You're getting reimbursed for it. Why aren't we? So Jeff said today that he was sending an email off to see because he thought that we should get a portion. When Lisa looked into it, when we had this Bristol Aggie, she spoke with somebody who said, well, it's only 20 cents on a dollar. And she said, well, 20 cents on a dollar to a small town, we're going to take it.
We'll need it.
We want everything.
Yeah.
So we're working on that. Yes.
Yeah, because all the expenses related to school choice are reimbursable,
Right.
potentially, if they fit into one of the various programs that they have. We should be able to realize a pretty good kickback.
Right, something on
Yeah.
it. So we are looking into that.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so that's it for that department.
Okay.
21?
And I'm sorry, now I am up to the townwide.
Okay.
Yeah, it says
Up
that
to what?
the transportation will be provided. So
Townwide services is Department 35. If you're following along,
74.
is on page 8 of 9, and it's a handout coming at you.
That's a lot of money.
I think we need a line item for all the paper we print to do this.
Okay,
Townwide expenses.
townwide expenses.
Thank you.
Waiting for, to check with the auditors. We have Melanson Heath, they merged with Markham. They went up $2,000 from fiscal 23 to 24. I added another 2,000 for next year. Legal services, I'm holding that as is. Interpretive services, that stays the same. The town reports and mailings, I did up that number just a bit. We expended all of the $6,000 last year, so I am going to do some more research on that number. The mailing and the duplicating, we had a little bit left last year, but postal rates have increased. So I did increase that. The vacation pay for terminating employees is level funded. Plymouth County Retirement is our killer there. That's a significant increase. Unemployment compensation, this is interesting because if you remember last year, we had all kinds of transfers. I think it was 30 some odd thousand that we were over. To date this year, we have not paid anything. So we never know. There were a lot of fraud,
A lot of COVID fraud stuff was in there.
ton of COVID fraud.
It takes forever to get it back.
If you get it back.
Right.
And I attended a meeting on that when I was at the MMA conference. So while I increased it to 10, just because we had such a horrible year last year, we could still get slammed in the next 6 months. It's just one of those that's an unknown.
That
But
is.
it doesn't make sense to me to put 30,000 in or 35 because we spent that last year when we may not. The medical life insurance match, that's just a placeholder, that's 7%. Yep, we have a general board meeting coming up, so hopefully I will have a firm number there shortly. The Medicare town match, I did a 3% increase with all, increase in salaries. It's increase in Medicare tax, 1.45%. And then the general liability has a 3% increase. That's the increase that we used last year as well. And that's what I have at the moment.
Okay, so questions on townwide services. For me, I had a question on 252, and I think you answered it.
Okay.
And then I think on the general liability insurance, you initially carried a 0 on your initial pass, but you
Okay.
decided to go with 3% because
Right. Because there will be some increases. So I just level funded on my initial pass. That was just sort of a scenario that if we level funded, this is where we stand.
okay,
So that wasn't really a,
so we're going pretty far away from that initial deficit too. Then, right?
with all the departments.
Oh yeah,
Believe me.
we're way past. We're 5 times where we were. John.
Mary Beth, maybe you can talk a little bit about big picture of Plymouth County retirement over the next 5 years.
Yep. So, and I haven't heard back yet. I reached out to Tom O'Brien from Plymouth County, and I actually called Porig, the executive director at the Plymouth County Retirement. So, as you all know, we have a big OPEB. We have an OPEB liability, which is for the health insurance and all of that, but we also have the retirement liability. This is this big number that we're paying that right now is set to be completed in 2029. However, by law, towns have, they can go out to 2040. So Plymouth County right now is set at 2029. We've had a big increase, and I can tell you that we're going to probably have a very large increase over the next 2 years as well if they switch their mortality tables, which they held off on doing. So right now we're so close to the finish line. I want them just to hold to 2029. This will not all be going away, but the majority of this number will be going away. So I see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Wait,
What-
the majority of the big number.
Of the big number, the $3 million number.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We will always have an assessment every year from Plymouth County, but we'll no longer be paying
Catch
for
up.
those catch-up, for those
Right.
members who, had a 5 and 2 deducted from their check, or a 6 and 2, or a 7 and 2. Everyone now, new employees, is pay as you go. We take from their paychecks 9% plus 2% over 30. So, but we have retirees who were under years ago, under the old rules, and enough money really wasn't taken out to fund their future benefits. And people are living longer and everything else. So I see a big portion of this going away. Now, most towns are saying, okay, well, that's the plan for that is to take that money and redirect it towards our big OPEB liability that we're only putting a drop in the bucket, $140,000 a year. that I've always wanted to increase is meals tax has gone up and increased. But so most towns are waiting for their Plymouth County retirement OPEB to finish and then redirect most of those funds to attack the other big, elephant in the room, the other big OPEB liability facing us. But I do see that maybe we could not put all the money and redirect it, but we should absolutely make a concerted effort to make really try to put funds going forward when they're available to that other liability. But still, I see that we could free up some money in our budget to help some of our departments.
Rosemary.
Love that you're on top of OPEB. I'm thinking about it because it really does affect how we
It does.
borrow, big time.
It does, ratings, everything.
But
There's a but.
There's always a but.
You didn't see that coming?
but I'm going to take it back to don't think we're saving if we don't have the schools handling their OPEB, and they're
Right.
awful. They're really bad.
And they have their own OPEB.
They do, and since we're borrowing from them,
Right.
for some of our largest borrowing, making sure that we're not restricting their budget to pull from their EQV and not invest is really key. It's a mistake that we've made all along for a long time, especially as we're looking to borrow for these, for this building.
Unfortunately, there's only so much money to go around for everyone.
Even at that, so when we do spend money, we want to spend money that preserves money, not money that just builds or creates growth. So it's a better place to spend money if it's going to make us not spend even more money. That's what I'm saying.
You say it's better money to
It's better
take money
money-
directed to the schools?
It's better money. Well, once it goes to the schools, we can't control that it goes where it needs to begin with. But to make sure that we are not restricting their ability to handle their OPEB and their EQV during this borrowing time is really going to be key. And we have in the past. We really have.
But they also have choices within their budget on what
I
they
think
can do to redirect
when
some of
you
their
have a
money.
lopsided budget, when your budget is, and we do have we have had some of the lowest investment in education in Massachusetts. We've been third from the bottom at point. That does really restrict your ability to have your percentage of EQV, and you'll pull back from those things that you aren't. We don't absolutely have to. So you do the same thing if you're running that same budget, I'm sure. But we're going to be borrowing, so really looking at the mistakes from the past, so that we don't have to pay for it in the future.
You're talking about the impact of the interest rates for the borrowing for the
Absolutely.
school.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for clarifying.
Okay.
This update was supposed to be a good one, saying that in 2029, hopefully a good chunk of this will come off the books and open up a good amount of.
Right.
That's good.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So there's a little
Light
silver
at the
lining.
end of the tunnel, right?
Not all dark clouds hanging over. All right. Any other questions then for Department 35?
John has a question.
John, sorry.
Going from big money to small money. Is $500 enough money for interpretive services? We're hearing a little bit more that different departments are not challenged, but having some difficulties meeting the needs of some of the citizens who come in who don't comprehend English. And I'm just thinking from a staff perspective, it might ease their burden of trying to communicate. Is the 500 enough? Do we have something in place that any department, when confronted with somebody that has English as a second language, that can be handled well and quickly?
Well, I have not had anybody that has, contacted our office to, for a need for this since I've been here. So I don't know that we've often used much from this line, but we do have that available.
You know what, I just want to say, so, down in the assessor's office, people have translations on their phones.
Yep.
And Andrea Fall, who worked, down in that department, she's retired now. She conducted business with a person who spoke no English by using the person's phone. They spoke their language into the phone. It translated into English. She answered the question in English, and it translated the answer into that person's native language. It was wonderful, and I think I've seen it
Collector's
happen at the
office.
collector's office as well.
Yes, several times. They
For the short term, I mean, immediate, that folks seem to.
Well, it's only going to get worse, I guess is the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering whether the services are sufficient to give, aid to people who need it, whether it's the staff or the people looking for services from the staff.
Right, I mean, we haven't exhausted this line in previous years, so it may be something over the next few years that we
I
May
think
have a
it's
need?
similar to the education.
Yeah.
It's being handled by the individual departments when necessary. It's not coming up to the top. So
Yeah.
again, here's a potential place that if we were to tell the department, or you were to tell the departments, hey, we want to start to track what our costs are, and then we can look at it as it grows year by year, and then make a kind of a central perspective. But right now, we are hearing it. We heard it from all of our special services that this is to some degree impacting their ability to deliver those services. It might be a good one for us to get ahead of. And so I think John's spot on with this one is let's find out what we are spending.
have the other departments spent money on this
the
service?
police has had a service, and then that person could no longer. But just quickly, because I have had my
Go
hand
ahead.
up
Yes,
quite
you're
some
next.
time.
Yeah.
And we already see numbers in the school for ESL kids. Or was it over 100 more?
20% of the Duval student population is English as a second language.
And I believe
20%.
coming, and I guess trying to do this with being integrated, services that are provided for families in need are getting calls recently. They on their messages for churches and others, messages for food and other things in Creole. They have no means to. No, these are life important services that we don't have a translator for those. So we know we have a growing ESL population within our town, and we can see it in the numbers. We have to react to it, as John said. But we are people who provide services for human beings' basic lives, and we have to interpret demographic changes like these to be ahead of that curve, so we're there for them when they need it. And this is one of them.
I'd be
So-
interested. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we saw this specifically, and I remember specifically the discussion with the library.
Yes.
When you talk about departments who take it upon themselves, the library, to me, is behind where they should be in offering these type of services to the public. The question was asked specifically about that to the library, and they really don't have a lot of things in play right now for
Yeah.
people
And
who
that's
do
where
not
we would
have
go.
English as a primary language. So, Michael.
And just to follow up too is folks that are not principally English speakers, they may not even know to ask the questions. So we're not necessarily seeing them ask for services because they don't know how to breach that
Yeah.
first question.
If you're calling already, you're desperate. You know, you really have to overcome the anxiety of not being understood, all that.
They just don't know where to go.
So being there and saying you can come to your town hall, you can come to your town, and we'll be ready to hear you no matter what language you're speaking. It's probably good.
So I think this is important in as much as the collaboration with the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator to develop policies that increase, and it goes to our strategic planning, that we start to focus on some of the things we should have focused on several years ago and get caught up. I think that's really the crux of this conversation, that
Yeah.
we're offering suggestions based on conversations we've had with department heads and needs that are perceived, and I think they're real.
I mean, people are paying taxes, no matter what language they're paying. They're living here, they're paying taxes.
They should be getting services.
They should be getting services.
So this would need to be increased in my mind if we're talking about like an outreach type,
Not even
to
outreach.
advertise.
I'm not
On the website, on your website.
That's what I mean.
Let's find out
Putting
what they're
something out
spending
there.
first,
Exactly.
where the needs are, because right now we just don't have that knowledge, right? It's being handled as well as people can in their individual departments or
Yeah,
et
and
cetera.
mishmashed.
But without that communication, we don't know that it's a problem, or maybe it's not.
Maybe it's not.
But
Maybe it's not. But we can start very easily just I can run some reports and see what has been expended, for this topic, and then start there
Yeah.
before we, go any further with it. But sure,
Okay.
people some
awareness.
information.
And then, before we leave this Department 35, just to go back to line 344, I did have a point here that we should be looking at potential savings. There were some recommendations by technology to have alternative processes in place. I think he was very specific about what those processes could be, and the potential for savings is pretty significant. So, line 3044, I mean, right now it's 54,000. It's budgeted at 58,000, but there could be some significant savings in this line if we look to some alternative.
And what
means.
were the alternatives that was suggested, paying online?
Do you remember specifically?
It was a combination, yeah, of central buying, of course, is one piece, right? But also, do we lease the machines as opposed to have it outsourced, that sort of thing? It's worth a conversation about purchase, outsourcing, or leasing of equipment to perform these. Today, there has to be a discussion about mailing. We have some that has to go through the U.S. mail system. Some does not. And quite frankly, I think you find most people now are going through email or some other means to get their information.
So just another thing to look at
I
long
think you
term.
also mentioned electronic payments that way, because
Yes.
there's a lot of banks that do offer programs where we set up an account and we just give them the address and who the vendor is, and at some point we just go ahead and point and click, say we're going to go ahead and make a payment based on invoice. We type in dollar amount, we type in, we push send, and the bank takes care of the rest.
EFT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do make a lot of payments by ACH and wire.
We make some.
Yeah, I mean debt payments and all of that
Yeah.
stuff, and then more ACH than we have in the past. But I think they're talking something different here.
talking
They're
citizens.
We're talking about
all of our
taxpayers,
vendor.
right?
How do you pay your dog license?
Right.
Bring up a check or cash. Why is it not on those? And that's what he was talking about. Is these little points of contact, principally with the citizens, that they really have two options: check or cash.
Well, they can go online for many things down in the clerk's office, birth certificates, so forth. They can do all that. With
So, yes,
your
but
bank.
that was his point. That there are some,
And we do that. I mean, we collector's office. All the payments, can be done online. But I'm wondering if you're talking about the checks that the town pays out.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I was talking about.
Because I would never suggest that we allow people to debit the town's accounts for any reason. No. And so to pay them, for you to pay the vendors, that's a whole different system.
I need that on Saturday, probably on my schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because we're way over time right now,
Yeah.
and I feel like I apologize in advance to the clerk's appointment. I think it was 8 o'clock.
Could I just add one comment on interpretive services?
Yep.
There are, I think, 11 or 12 different languages spoken in the Duval School.
Wow.
So it may be informative to contact the schools and say, you can't reach one person who speaks, I don't even remember the dialect from some Nepal root, Alps. But Haitian Creole is big, Portuguese is big, so we should have a sense of what significant populations are, members of our community who may be marginalized without being able to talk to us, and anticipate the need that way.
The dialects,
Got it.
the bigger issue.
I think the police had a specialized interpret. You can pay per grade or something. The police were doing it. They can't do it anymore apparently, but something happened. The person left the job, but they had some.
Okay, and then just a couple of quick housekeeping things for Article 2. Department 14 on page 3, facilities. Should we transpose the positions of the custodian and the facilities manager to reflect the budget manager at the top of the department?
Okay.
Right now, we got custodian up here,
Right.
and we have facility manager down here.
Yep.
Typically, the department
Of course.
manager is the top. I don't know if we might think about rearranging that in the Article 2 so that the budget manager is at the top. I don't-
No, that makes sense, and I'm taking off some of the old car leases that were on there. There were some lines that haven't been used in a few years,
Yeah, you take
and I
those
want
out.
those stripped off. The other thing that you just made me think of, though, is the Council on Aging does want to bring in some cleaning services. So I have spoken to the facilities manager. I was thinking of reducing one of his lines there for $7,000.
Yep.
He's good with taking that down
Additional
by
custodial
4.
services.
Right, by 4,000 to 3,000. However, I'm still looking at information. I'm waiting for some quotes, and they do have a formula grant. So I'm looking at other avenues once I get the numbers, but that may be
You
a
have to say the
change.
same
So
thing I am.
we're all gonna say
They're
the
not the only
same
ones
thing.
doing that.
Yeah.
So the library
Library.
has similar requests. So again, we have multiple departments doing their own facilitation.
Yeah, we have to centralize that.
Should that be under the facilities, transfer the budget over
Right.
to him and let him manage that. And again, single source, reduce the cost.
Well, not just that, when you're doing procurement, if these people are doing procurement individually because of the limit they're paying, that's fine. But once you reach that certain line, you
Yeah.
have to go out for an RFP.
I'm an expert on that
He's
now.
an expert. You saw the
Okay.
video this morning. Once the total of that procurement for
Right.
the same thing
Right.
exceeds, which are we reviewing the total of procurement for exceeding? And additionally, let's look back when we increased the facility line. One of the reasons we increased that line was because they were going to be handling that and centralizing it.
Well,
And now we're seeing the line large, the large facility line, and then all this outsourced. And
Utilities too.
I'm starting to say we need to review how we did this.
and probably not for
Clarify.
this
No,
meeting.
not for this meeting.
Not for this meeting.
But we definitely need to look at that over big picture.
And I agree. And for the cleaners, I did look because we would never even know because they don't have to go through. All they need are 3 quotes if they're doing it individually for a certain dollar limit. Although I checked into it with adding the COA is going to throw us over our limit if we stay with. So anyway, it's on our radar. Yes,
I just sent
absolutely.
him all the laws on that today, didn't I?
Well,
Ray?
you did, yeah.
Okay,
And then
what else do you have?
the next version of the Article 2, could it have a column for expended 24? That is helpful to have an expended 24 column so that we know it actually
To
was
date?
spent. No. So we budgeted in 24 and then
Yep.
what was expended in 24?
Well, we're in 24. So do you want to just
Thus far.
thus
Yeah,
far?
we just want the
I
thus far.
think that's the way we used to do it.
No, I think you're thinking expended 23
Yeah, that's what
is
I
what
need.
you want.
Yeah,
Okay.
expended 23.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. Nope. That's okay. We can do that.
And then my only other thing was just a follow up on the request, and then we had an email with Sean Kane about getting some type of a 5-year department growth. So that
Yes,
we can
we're
start
working on that.
evaluating where these departments have grown and if we can
I
somehow
want to ask about
use that information to guide us into this fiscal 25 final version of this budget.
So I am working on a 5-year. Some of the lines, have maybe changed the department or changed whatever, but we're
Right.
looking at at least all the main key ones, and doing something, hopefully for the next selectmen's meeting.
Okay, great.
Yep, so that's on our radar.
All
as
right,
well.
I'm sorry to keep you guys long. We
No.
appreciate you being here. Anybody else have anything?
No,
Okay.
I just texted
what
Rick.
about the rentals?
That was about the vocational busing from a Suzanne Bump audit. It talked about reimbursement, I think, the law that pertains to it.
So John just mentioned, if in fact there is some type of a matrix with the values of rental properties that the town owns and the actual rent being paid, is there a matrix associated with that within the town? Nothing to talk about now?
No, that's assessors.
Yeah.
That's assessors.
That would actually fall again under procurement because they're under chapter 16, section 30. You would have to represent the value, true value for any rental, and show. So I think section 16,
What he's trying to do
Town
is...
property.
town property.
Oh, you're talking town. I'm like individual.
No,
That's
town.
not right.
No, this is town property.
I'm sorry, I should have worded it better.
Municipal property, that's
Municipal
Okay,
properties,
so what's the question?
if there's some matrix that has a
The value.
inventory of town-owned properties that are being rented, what the value and what the rent is.
Not only rented, utilized by private entity in any capacity.
So we're talking basically about Corthell.
Cut
Or
that
they
out.
just cut
We're
that.
talking about the cable building.
We're talking about the cable building, we're talking about Cuthell, we're talking about the armory, because the armory is utilized by Plymouth County
Okay.
as well.
So there is a matrix. I would think that the accountant has a list of the town-owned properties. Right?
Wait a minute, there's nobody in there.
Nobody in there, yeah.
Sorry.
And just to let you know that the plan, well, I could go on for all night.
I got one other question.
Yes.
Oh, and also sales of property, so that this would also pertain to the total value also, total land, the value of the Girl Scout camp. Because before any sale under 16, you're supposed to represent value and rental value.
Ralph, we don't want to leave you
And
hanging.
that
Go
should have
ahead.
been, that hasn't gone past finance committee.
Okay, we got it.
Assess that value.
My question, personal property tax. Does the town of Whitman charge business owners a personal property tax?
They sure do, yeah. For the
Same as-
contents in their
Right,
business.
right.
Yes, they do.
I wasn't sure because I've never seen it come up on anything here.
Nope.
And
I'm sorry, yep,
That's a
we do
receivable,
levy personal property tax every year,
okay,
year in,
along with
year out.
real estate.
Yep.
all right.
Yep.
I was just curious.
And it depends on the type of business as to what is deemed taxable or not.
Okay.
And under a certain amount, we no longer,
Yeah, right.
you know, it's under what, 100,000?
So no, if the value is 3,000 or less, we don't send out a bill.
3,000 or less, we don't send out a bill.
Okay.
$3,000, and does that include home businesses as well, or are home businesses exempt?
No, home businesses are not exempt.
Okay, home businesses with under, you know,
Any business that the valuation of the personal property is $3,000 or less, they do not get billed.
okay,
Valuation.
thank you.
Okay, I promise you guys can leave now. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Thank you all for
I
coming.
still want to make sure you
Yeah.
weren't missing a potential source of revenue.
Oh, no, we're collecting that. All
I
right.
want to make sure.
Thanks again.
Good night, bye-bye.
Why wouldn't we want 3,000? What can we collect on that? Is it NCI?
You still got time on the recorder?
Making sure the battery is
Should
okay.
be like 5,000.
Are they moving in?
They're coming on in.
Yeah. You have a laptop in your house.
We got 4 minutes.
I am so sorry to keep you waiting. Come on up.
You know what? I brought you cupcakes.
Oh my goodness, me individually or the group?
Oh, that's what, you all have to share them.
Good, we'll put them right in the middle. Thank you so much.
I'll put them right down here.
All right.
We have here. I hate you spoil us.
Yeah.
Spoil us.
Michael, thank you for coming as well.
I also, before we get started, if anybody would like to sign my nomination papers, you can
Yes.
pass them around while we
I'll
talk.
start right here.
Good, thank you, appreciate that.
All right, so you know everybody here. There are some new members. You met Mike Warner.
Yeah, I don't think I've met you. Did I meet you, Mike? I don't believe so.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So Mike Warner's our newest member, other than Justin, who's not here today.
Yep,
Um,
yep. Who else is missing? Chuck.
yep.
Chuck, he's the one that prints my ballots. He knows.
All right. So
If Ralph wants
Ralph, do you want one or not?
Yeah, I'll take one.
Well, John, you
So
got us.
for those following along, on your Article 2, this is Department 9, the clerk's budget is on page 2 of 9, and it starts on line 112, salary, town
So what do you
clerk.
have for salary, just real quick, so if I know we're on the right page?
So-
I amended it, and I don't know
Right.
if I gave you the
So
amendment.
everybody has a copy of your budget that we just printed out. Does anybody have a copy of the clerk's budget?
Do you have 90,000 in salary? What do you
Yes.
have?
Requested, yes.
The
Okay.
new one. We have the new
Yeah.
one.
Michael, you want one? I made copies, I wasn't sure if I had given you.
I'll take a new one.
Sign this, Chuck?
Mine's under here somewhere.
There's been a few adjustments.
Okay, so we're gonna go over Department 1, Department 9, and Department 10. So,
Is the clerk budget, here, do you have a copy of the budget?
yep.
For everyone, I don't know if they have it. Do you have a, did you need
You
it?
need more?
I just want to make sure that my numbers are. I had 90.
That's road.
Yeah, that was the one before this one.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the second one, okay, that's
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we'll go through the departments, and then if people have questions within each department, we'll stay in the department until the questions are answered, then you can move to the next.
Certainly,
All right?
yes.
So starting with town meetings and elections, you wanna talk a little bit about that?
So town meeting and elections are what they are. What you're gonna have for elections in FY '25 will be, oops, sorry. You'll have, the presidential in November. okay, which is going to be huge. I feel it's going to be huge. That's a very expensive election. I have a grand total of an election budget of around $17,000. That's the average election. The presidential is going to go above that. I have an estimated breakdown. Early voting costs run about, because it's salaries. We have to fund it. We have to have it, and we have to have staff covering those shifts. We can't possibly do it in our office and cover early voting. So on the average, it's about $6,000 for salaries for just the early voting. With the presidential, you have to have 11 days, but it basically is 2 weeks. You have to have one weekend day. You could have two. We have to be open on Fridays. Even though the building's not open, we have to be open on Fridays. And then other than that, it's normal business hours, and that's what we run. We run normal business hours. We do start a half hour late, and we end a half hour early, only because we have to get the hall set up, everything. Like, we don't want to come in at 8 and have people, there's things that we have to do with the computer and things like that we have to get ready, get the ballots out there, and then same with packing up. Election day salaries, this is based on older without the new increases, but that was $6,478. That's the average. Program services, and that will also go up because we were just noted, we had election worker training yesterday. There's going to be 9 questions on the ballot. So programming services, those run based on like language and how many, it might be a 2-sided ballot. They didn't really say, did they say that if they were going to have 2-page ballot? There could be 9 questions. We have up to letter T for petitions and things like that. They have to meet a process. They believe it's going to go down, and hopefully it goes less than 9. I've never seen more than 4. I don't know what we're going to do with 9. And then miscellaneous costs, supplies, labels. Labels are huge. We mailed out, we did, real quick, we have, for the first time, doing early voting for a presidential primary. So nobody really knows what the feel is, what the consensus is going to be, how much you're going to have for interest. Our first batch of mailing was 700 ballots that went out so far. And then we're getting, how many have we done today? Today we did 91 today. So the first batch was 700. Today we mailed out 91. And they're coming in that
30 to 50 a day, I'd say.
yeah, and nobody knows. Like, you can't ask the state how many do you think. They mailed out 4,500,000 applications to voters to participate in the early voting, and also they mailed them out to active voters and inactive voters. And that's where I'm not trying to say what they did is wrong, but this is what they did. It is what they did. So you have inactive people getting at residents that they no longer live at because we've inactivated them because they didn't respond to a census or whatever. So that being said, so they mailed out 4,500,000. Whatever we get back, we get back. And we have to, a lot of people are selecting all elections. They're not picking a party. There's a lot of follow-up on these because they're unenrolled voters, even though clearly, I'm sure you guys all got one. Mm-hmm. It says if you're unenrolled, please pick a party. People still don't pick a party. We can just ignore them. We have a lot of options. But as a small town, and me as your town clerk, I do not feel comfortable doing that. If Kathleen Otina sends in a card, I'm going to call you up and say, listen, Kathleen, it says that you want to partake in the March primary. You didn't select the party, however you have to. Because people don't know, and I explain it to them, and that's what we do. So we go that extra step, and that does take time and extra work. So that being said, that's what we're going through right now. It's only going to get worse. So those same 700 ballots that we mailed out, and this is something to keep in mind with mailing and duplicating, they're 88 cents a ballot. We have to pay to mail them out, and on the annual election, they're going out to those same people that are for the March. After the annual, those people who didn't respond to the March, the state is going to do another mailing. They're doing it for September, right?
July 1st.
Yeah, they'll mail out for September. So those people who didn't select all elections are getting another. And I don't know how many, and they don't know how many, because they don't know how many people have responded. But all this stuff has created a lot of work, all right? A lot of time, a lot of mental work, a lot of physical work, and a lot of staff. So that's where I get my numbers for elections. I know last year what we did is we actually elections for last year. We were taking 20-something thousand. I forget what it was, 25,000 from the extra polling hours to subsidize that cost. So we have the September election, we have the March election, and we have the May election for FY25. So there's quite a bit, and then we could possibly have,
You have September,
because it's for, yeah,
so can you list all the ones we have? We have
so September 3rd
Is
will
the-
be the state primary,
state primary.
and then we have November 5th, which is it November?
That's
Yeah,
a presidential.
that's a presidential, and then we'll have the
Just
May
a-
stuff.
yeah.
And then in January, we're going to have probably the school for the vote tech
They're paying for it,
out of your tax dollars, though.
but no, but but they're paying for it. But that's
And I don't know, so like I don't want to get in. I'm on that board, and I asked Tom Hickey to be. I want to be a strong representation because I feel that Whitman has a majority, or we have a higher number, and I want to make sure that the taxpayers are protected on what happens with this election and how it's tallied and how things are done. So we are meeting. I think it's April 4th or something like that with all the other town
what board
clerks.
are you on? You're on the vocational board.
No, it's the town clerks. He meets with the town clerks. We
Okay,
meet
good.
Brass and Lanton, and we talk about what, because it's, yeah,
They voted on part of Chapter 74 that allows for them to
Right.
pay for this.
correct.
Which
But what are they basing that on? Who, Marshfield's election,
Ex-
Whitman's election,
Well, yeah,
Hanover's election?
It gives less of a yes.
Not everybody runs things the same way. So my elections might cost more because we pay our election workers more money. I'm just saying, I want to make sure that Whitman is fairly represented. So when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And as far as I run a clean election, and I want to make sure that is a clean election as well. So,
Oh yeah.
end of story. That's how I feel with that. Like, I mean, not end of story, but you know what I'm saying.
I guess what I'm confusing, under the section, they are required, and this is in terms of your budget, they are required to cover the cost of the election.
Right. So this is not a common thing. I've never done one.
Yeah,
so I
it's
don't
not-
know.
it was
Do I? I'm saying, Rosemary, this is what I'm learning as well
Okay.
as everybody else. So do I send them my invoices? Do I send them my payroll?
Question.
Right. Well, these are the things that I want answered. Or do they say, well, it costs $10,000 in Marshfield, so everybody's just going to get $10,000 and you figure it out. So I want to make sure that we don't pay for it. So, and I know it's going to be in January. I'm not sure when. I don't know if they've even decided that. But we have a separate meeting, all the town clerks, with Mr. Hickey, with he's Dr. Superintendent Hickey. So, and I've reached out to him and I said that I want to be.
Yeah, I think the reason he's doing it is it affords them an advantage to getting it passed. So I would assume that they would handle. I hope when you're at that meeting, if they're looking for an advantage, not to give us a financial disadvantage.
Correct. I don't know how much play that has with what I'm there for.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That would be like Deanne, I think, or whoever is the school committee representative.
Okay, so Department 1, then here we are, then the final request for
I have 59,000.
$59,000, which is an increase of 31.11%.
But it really isn't, because we're using funds from the 25,000 from extra polling and elections. The town reimburses us. I repeat this every year.
Mm-hmm.
The law says that we have to be open for 10 hours. We're open for 13 hours. They refund us for those 3 hours. That money goes into a separate account for emergency things. Buying new voting machines. When we bought the new voting machines, we didn't have to go to the taxpayers. It was something that we had the funds for. So it's like $1,300 here. They give us the just that 3 hours. That we have to be open, and I do a survey or
Reimbursement.
reimbursement.
So line 585 is reimbursed for the partial of that 59,000 you're saying is reimbursed.
No, not this one is not, because they've taken it for last year in the budget for the 45. They took all of the. So there's not much left in that
Okay.
budget.
But the reason why it's increased 31% is because of the presidential election. Is that what you would...
It's really not increasing, it's actually decreasing, because if you add 25,000 to that, last year's budget was 70,000.
But the $45,000 is a false number. Is that-
Correct.
That's the false, I thought you said the 59 was the false.
45,000
No, the
plus
45 is,
25 from another
right,
source.
correct.
Okay. That would be nice to have a little disclaimer there that said there was a supplement to the fiscal 24 budget.
Yeah.
Right, okay, but now I understand.
And
Very good.
And the 59, that's not including any of that.
No, because we took most of it, there's really not much
Right.
left, so.
Okay.
Very good.
So town expenditures are still going from 45 to 59. That's
Right, right.
And that I'm sure someone on town hall floor is going to ask the same question.
Yeah, I'm gonna need the 59,
Right.
because we took pretty much all of what we have in that extra funding, the extra pulling hours
Okay.
account to pay for this year's.
All right, anybody have any questions for Don on Department 1 then? Line 585. So we're going to move on to then Department 9?
The fun one.
Okay, so Department 9, everybody has a copy of Don's budget. Starts on page 2, on the Article 2,
On the salary.
and line 112, right, salaries.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So you're gonna see, there is a 15% decrease in that salary for, I was in a 5, 5, and 5. So that had taken place, and when I asked, the accountant couldn't, and this is what I got from the accounting department, they can't figure out if my salary should be 78,000 or 177 or 78,439 or 75,955. So I don't want to confuse anybody. So that is the reduction. So that's what the Board of Selectmen is probably going to present to you for a salary. I'm not sure which one they picked.
They picked 78,178. That's what's here on
Yeah.
Article 2. 78,178.
Okay,
Which represents a decrease of 11.46% over the
Right.
previous year.
right. So now, and that's fair, and that's fair enough, I get that. So what I'm asking for, so what, and also what's in that salary, it's not just my base salary. So I get paid for a burial agent. That's $275, which is, what do they do this? Anyways, they said it went up to $294. So what happened is, these extra salary items that I get for burial agent, registrars, and canvassing were all separate. And I'm not throwing Lincoln under the bus, and I'm not, but it is what it is. When Lincoln came on, he took all of, I know it fell out, thank you. When Lincoln came on, he took all of those three and he put it into my salary. I didn't want him to do that because the Board of Health pays me to be the burial agent. And registrars, that's something different. It's a whole different department. So I'm in charge of registrars. So that's a whole different department. And then canvassing, that's another whole different department, and which falls under the registrars. That's doing the census and things like that. And those numbers change. But they didn't go along with what I suggested. And so now they put everything in a lump sum, and they weren't sure how to back everything out. Karen wasn't sure. I have email correspondences and things like that because I'm like, what is my base salary now? Like, and so that's what I got. The thing that I got from them shows 3 different salaries. So, anyways, so I'm not sure what their base salary is, but regardless, I've done a little bit of research and I've come up with some things that I reflect this $90,000. Has nothing to do with the $75,000. I get that the 15 is taken back, and I willingly, obviously, give that back. So what I've done is I've looked at the increases throughout town hall for different departments. For instance, the assessor in FY24. We took an assessor that had less than 1 year of service to the town of Whitman and worked for a town in Plimpton with 1 precinct. And at the special town meeting, the finance committee supported this, gave her a $9,896 raise, which made her for FY24 $84,000.
Can I interrupt this really
You can.
quickly? I'm going to interrupt this because there was a contingency on that agreement for the assessor. The contingency was that overall, that they were going to pull back on outsourcing. So the end result would be that the town did not pay. They had a reduction or was similar to what we once had. We're kind of struggling with this a little bit because they were supposed to be, this assessor was supposed to be able to handle some of the outsourced amounts. So if you're doing that, is there something in your department that you're going to pull back on to offset your costs? Because that would be the equated ask of the finance committee. It was stated, you know, although they have a contract now, so they're sort of within the contracts, but it was stated that this assessor would be doing that.
Okay.
So-
I think just
Fair
what
enough.
she's saying is just there are more variables to that
Yeah,
negotiation.
Okay, so fair enough. So I'm going to just continue on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then you added 2.5, so that brings her to 86.1 for this year. That same assessor at that same town meeting, when asked a simple question about what abatements are available to our seniors, sat there, right in the middle of the row. I watched her. I knew the answer to that. Okay? I knew the answer to that. She sat there and did not, and not she, the assessor, sat there and did not answer. So I'm not sure what contingencies, but I guess answering a simple question. So Kathy Keefe had to get up and answer a simple question.
Hold on, this assessor was hired when?
I have no idea.
They were hired probably right before that. Very close, because this assessor,
No, she had been there. She had been there a lot longer than that. I don't even work for the assessor's office, and I know what's. So
let her,
Yeah,
you
let
know
me
what?
finish.
Let her finish the
Yeah.
entire calculation
Yeah.
here before we interrupt.
So then I look at the accountant, okay? We hire a new accountant for FY24. The salary was the same salary as mine, the base salary at $74,104. And we hired her to work 2 days a week and then 2 days from home. Pay me that $74,104 and I'll work 2 days a week and 2 days from home. I'm just saying, you're hiring new people off the street. Let me finish, okay? And then we have the accountant, Ken. Ken for FY25 signed a contract for $85,000 a year. I have the contract in here. As the accountant, $85,000 a year. These are the department heads who have received, and I'm talking not raises, I'm talking about salary adjustments in the last few years. So the building inspector, he went from like a $70,000 to a $95,000, somewhere around there. I don't know the exact numbers. I could get them, but I'm not putting that much work into this because I think it's going to end here, and you're going to see the 74 or 75,000 anyways. But I want to put this all in you guys' ear that there are people looking, and I'm one of them. And if it does have to go any further, I will bring the numbers so that it is factual. So then next on to the town administrator. That salary has ballooned. The assistant town administrator's salary got a $39,000 increase in 1 year. 1 year. And funny that same ATA was on the Board of Selectmen the year before. Just saying, the administrative in that office went from is now making $70,000, and I'm actually not sure what they put in for her for this year, but she's making $70,000 because she smiles a lot. That was a statement. Now, let me finish. I'm going to continue on. And works from home on Fridays. The veterans agent, her salary went up. Facilities, we have facilities. We're creating positions. We have no money. We can't fund anything, but we're creating a facilities manager. And now we have a maintenance guy. I think at one time we were decreasing because we didn't need, because they could handle all the buildings. So, but instead, now we've totally inflated it. The IT department, that's increased crazily. Now we have an assistant IT person. So there's an additional person that's been added to that department. That also, their salary was high. Oh, wait a minute. Back to the facilities. Was hired at a certain salary, was awarded $75,000 at town meeting with a vehicle, and then they signed Board of Selectmen signed a contract with him for $95,000. Where did that $20,000 come? The town voted the $75,000, not $95,000. So where did the Board of Selectmen have the right to give that person $95,000? But yet they're telling me you can't have a raise. Then we'll continue on. So then you got the IT department. Like I said, the salaries increased significantly and added an individual, and that individual's salary also inflated. Hired them at town meeting at a certain raise, and I don't know if backdoor things were done, and I hate to insinuate that, but he ended up with, I'm sure if you look, his salary is not the $55,000 that he was hired at. I said the accountant, the treasurer collector, salary inflated. Boom. Recreation director. Funny thing is, every single one of these departments are operated and ran by what? The Board of Selectmen, okay? So that's what I have to say about that. And when I ask about, or some of the quotes that were said were, we have to pay them more money because we need to get qualified individuals. Now, gosh darn it, I am the most qualified town clerk sitting in this room. Michael's right behind me, and Michael is working on being qualified. But right now, I'm the most qualified town clerk. When you go into a corporation, and I know we're not a corporation, but when you go in, any of you,
We're incorporated.
when you go in, you're a new person. You don't get paid more than your boss. You don't get paid more than the department head over here or the department head over here. You pay for the person who's been there for 25 years. They should get some type of, and I keep getting told,
Yeah,
That's not the way it works.
So you did touch on something that we have spoken about, and we talked a little bit about it in years past after the Collins report came in, and as they were adjusting to salaries, we did talk about circumference bias to people that surrounded the people who are making decisions were growing at a greater rate than other. And we have had that conversation, and we have noticed that.
and I have the Collins report right here. And if you look at the Collins report, the principal assessor and the town clerk are in the same category. So she's making $86,100, and I am making $10,000 less. Why? Collins report. You want to use the Collins report?
Stop for a second right there, just really quickly. I actually would like to use a government. There's a site, there's a web page that tells you what government salaries are, and you can narrow that to an area or a state and utilize that. We have that on our hands. I think I sent it to you, Rick. Did I send it to you? I will if I didn't. We could kind of review that to check up on the things that you're talking about.
Mhm.
I would be happy to go and.
So I gave this to Rick, and just so you know, there's 351 towns in Massachusetts, and I have us highlighted, Whitman highlighted. I'm just going to go to Whitman real quick. I'll give you a copy of this. You can take this. So here's Whitman. Above us is Uxbridge, and below us is Rainham. Now, the town. I know you're all about demographics and things like that, but my job is about population.
Yep.
So plain and simple. It doesn't matter about so much about it's population. So.
Population is part of demographics.
Demographics. So I look, Uxbridge is above us, so they have less people than us. Their town clerks makes $92,000. They've been there for 14 years. They have a CMC designation. Below us is Rainham. They have like 21 people more than us. She's elected. She has no certifications, and she makes $98,000.
What are you saying they're above and they're below? Like what's
Population.
The source? Population.
Yeah, and I'll leave this here. You can look.
No,
You can look. You have Hanover, and so it says.
Doesn't she have different certificate? The Hanover one has a certain level of certification. Do you have equal to? I know her actually, so she has certain amount.
CMC.
Yeah,
She's only CMC. I'm CMMC, and the difference is this: I am higher certified. The CMC the CMMC is the one that you take the 250 question test, and I am certified, and I have recertified myself.
Can you send us your certifications and the rate of what the highest certification is lowest, and where our staff?
Well, the certifications don't really,
I think it does. I think if you do the work.
Well, this all has all the certifications.
Well, let me just interrupt for 1 second. Right now, all we're having a discussion on is
her salary.
Is Don Varley's petition to.
And this is where I came up with the $90,000.
To justify her $90,000.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't spend so much time, because this board's decision is going to be based on more than your presentation, obviously.
Right.
It's going to be based on the historical implications of the 555 increase to
So
salary.
we're taking that out. That's done.
Well, in your presentation.
So I'm doing a salary adjustment. This is not about the 555.
But let me finish. The 555 is contingent on the fourth year, the individual that has been given 5 and 5 and 5 over the previous 3 years, if they decide to stay, then their salary is reduced by the amount that it increased in the previous 3 years.
Sure.
That's why we're looking at a difference between what you're submitting,
Right.
and what is in the proposed budget from the town administrator. So,
Yeah.
so I think we just need to take your presentation
Sure. Not
and
easy
your
to-
backup information,
Sure.
and the fact that a 555 means that it's no longer part of any of the collective bargaining agreement.
And I couldn't agree with you more.
So I just want to make note here, really quick, about the 555. The 555 is, and you're saying, oh, I should be paid more for longevity. The 555 was an intent to refresh to newer things, so we didn't have to pay the longevity. That is the Lexington plan. The Lexington plan was to have people retire so that you could move in, that you had you're top heavy with a lot of longevity staff, and that you would give an incentive to retire.
Do you know that there are still people that are currently working that also got the 5, 5, and 5?
And I agree. And this is across the board, but so why did we even take place in the longevity plan if it didn't produce what we were supposed to produce, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right, so just for clarification, the 555 is an adaptation of the 777 Lexington plan.
Correct.
So it's like the Lexington
Yeah,
plan.
the
but
intent of that.
It isn't.
So I think what we need to recognize is if we were implementing this plan, that we had salaries, and let's look at that. Did we have salaries that were too top heavy, and that we were in a situation where having too much longevity was actually making it so that we couldn't create service? What was that? So that's why a town goes into that. Now, I wasn't there when those decisions were made. Were we applying that correctly? Were we not? But here we're saying, hey, we have all these people. They have all these extra salaries. We're in there. We need a review on what we can afford.
So the Board of Selectmen voted, it was me and the treasurer collector, because all these other people were in contracts. Their contracts allowed them either the 777 or the 5, 5 or 7 and 7 or the 5, 5 and 5. Because Plymouth County got rid of your highest paid, they used that as contract negotiations, and they pulled all of them out. However, the people who were still in them, one I can think of off the top of my head, and I'm not picking on him, is Bruce Martin. Everybody jumped on the 5, 5, and 5 or the 7 and 7.
Isn't he retiring?
He's retiring.
But he got it 10 years ago.
Oh,
He already got his.
and he stayed another 10 years.
Correct. And there are other people that same thing. So what they did is they all jumped on because they knew it was coming out of their contracts.
So it was a misuse of the plan. Is
Correct.
What it sounds like.
So they allowed the treasurer collector and the town clerk, because we were elected and we didn't have a contract. Well, what was fair for the goose is good for the gander, right? No, this is why it was, I'm telling you, it was before me. It was when PM was the town clerk, because PM got it and didn't retire. Mary Beth was going to take it, so Bob Curran got it, and he stayed. There's a lot of people you can ask.
So,
I'll let you ask.
I think the research is there. I think
It is there.
The information
Can
is
I
here.
just make a point financially?
I just don't
long-term?
wanna
I know you don't want
Stay
to.
on this topic. I think we have all the information we need.
I think that it.
But I don't want it to be held against me,
It's
because
Go ahead. Go ahead. There you go.
If we're, first of all, there should be fair treatment for how we fund and staff, and I'm sorry that happened. That's not appropriate. But also, we have to think broadly
right?
about the impact on the taxpayer and this. And if there's a misapplication of a plan that should have produced retirements and did not, then we have a bubble
Right.
of a financial, a disjointed financial thing that we have to straighten out.
But I was the end of it. I'm the end of the road, just so you know that. I was the end of the
when that
road.
was decision.
But so since you're the end, if you're the end of the road, do we continue? Did you retire? You're not retiring.
I'm not retiring.
So we then
It doesn't force you to retire.
It doesn't force you to retire, but right now under your
But that was the
budget,
intention.
you're not. You're saying, I guess if you wanted adjustments, why instead of taking the plan didn't you fight for the adjustment then?
It basically said that after 20 years I was entitled to a 5, 5, and 5. It didn't say that I had to retire.
I guess what I'm saying is, right now, instead of going for the 5, 5, and 5, if you weren't retiring, this adjustment in salary, which is appropriate, would have been more appropriate. So now we've got to pull you back and push you forward at the same time to be appropriate.
Right.
So
Whatever you have to do, you have to do.
I mean, and to meet
So
those,
I'm
things.
going to go on real quick too. And we went on the Social Security website, and the average wage increase for my position. Back in 2012, I made $57,579, and using the Social Security website calculator, my salary based on just the average wage increase, and that's not the cost of living wage increase, it's the average wage increase. I should be making $86,561.97. So also in this $90,000, what you got to remember, it's not just my salary. It's also including the burial agent, which is $275, including. So you would reduce that $90,000 by $294.70, $806.94, and $1,382.41, and that's actually what I'm asking for, which is somewhere around the
Can
$86,000.
you tease out all of those different salaries that are not included in your salary? There's different things that you get for being those agents,
Right.
and then we can deal with how we pull back and how we push forward,
Right.
or recommend, because we can't do anything but recommend
it could all be combined. So at one time,
based on just your salary.
like the police and the fire, they had 911, keeper of the lockup. They got monies for all of that. All of those monies were combined into their one salary. They would not do that with me because they didn't want me to get retirement. This is what I was told on those salaries, because I was not entitled to retirement benefits for a burial agent, registrar, and canvassing. I'm only entitled to retirement benefits through Plymouth County for my base salary. So I have, on my payroll sheet, I have a column for my regular salary, and I have another column, and that is for these three items. That every week when I do my timesheet, it's one column's for my base salary, and that's all I can get retirement on. I can't get retirement on any of these other things, yet the fire and the police, all those things were combined and put into their base salary.
John, can you just tell me what the canvassing, I got the first two.
Okay, burial agent is $294.70.
Yep.
Registrars is $806.94.
Yep.
And canvassing is $1,382.41.
382, thanks.
Okay, does everybody have?
What is? Can you give me? I know you have the. Can you give me what that total? I didn't put it
It's about
down.
2,500.
I didn't have the canvassing, so
I didn't know all that minus 90,000. What is my actual base salary I'm asking for?
I need the last number back. I just,
1382.41.
yeah, what Mike said.
What was it? Sorry, Mike.
2,500.
Yeah, but minus, so it's.
It's basically 25. Yeah. There's pennies there.
Can you send me at least and your comparisons? I'd like to look at
Yeah,
that.
this came from the accountant. This is what they gave me.
Yeah,
for
I
mine.
mean, we had other towns and other things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is that right.
You
there.
can have that.
Yes, thank you. That's
All right.
We have to copy that with the public document now?
That's fine.
So can you get a copy? I'll have it copied.
Yeah.
Do you have that electronically?
Yeah, I must somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, can you send it to me electronically,
Yep.
please? Thank you so much.
Just send it to me. I'll get it to the whole
2484.
committee.
Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, yeah. Send it to the whole group.
Yeah,
Thank you.
minus, so it's 2484.
Yep.
Minus, 90,000 minus that. That's what I was trying to get with my 87.5. So I'm right on target with what I
Okay,
think.
so one quick question. You did a projection of what your salary would be, right? Did your projection include what it would have been if you did not get the 555?
Yes, I'm telling you this, what they gave me, because I didn't know what it would be, because they did the calculations. So, like I said, I can show you the emails. They weren't sure. This is why they gave it to me different ways, because they're not sure. I'll show you this. I think this is embarrassing that our accounting department couldn't figure it out. It's either, this includes all items below, all right? They came up with that number, or, because they weren't sure how to back it out, because of the extra lines that were put in there.
The 555 I'm talking about.
I want to point out that after the Collins report came back, the agreement for the 555 was. So the argument can be made in two different ways. That she didn't have her salary adjusted prior to the 555. Maybe doing that. What would it look like if you had adjusted the salary? Which would have been the more appropriate. You shouldn't have, in my opinion, I don't understand why you go after the 555 and not retire, or non the adjustment. Maybe there wasn't the right environment for it, but maybe calculate that but prior to this separate, as if you had gone for the appropriate adjustment in your mind, and then do the math backwards. Do you know what I mean, like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you take the starting salary prior to the acceptance of the 555, and what, is it a 2.5% per year?
Yeah.
Over that number of years, what would the salary be versus where you are today? That's
Yes.
probably the way to look at it. But that merely goes back and says, should you have taken the 555, or
Right.
should you have just taken the regular?
Okay.
Because the key is you're trying to those plans were meant to bump your base salary up to a point because
at one time you thought
retirement's
that
based on like your top three.
It was. It
Right.
stopped. So
But that's the whole point.
That's the whole idea.
Take it
That's
then.
when you're supposed to retire.
And if you don't, then
Then
you are behind the 8 ball.
We did it with Claire Smedley. She
Yeah.
took the 555, didn't retire, and went down 15%.
Yep.
Every town employee that availed themselves to the 555 went down 15%.
Correct.
If you
on
stay
the-
And I
long enough,
agree
it
with
doesn't
that.
matter. You didn't do anything other than give yourself a little bonus for a couple of years, but in the long run, because
So you're not
of the
even-
change,
You lost the 2.5% over the 3 years.
yes, you did, and
But that's a chance that you took.
that's you
Right.
roll the dice, yeah.
right,
That's a dice roll.
right.
So you're looking for a second roll.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a salary adjustment like you've given to the building department, the town administrator, the AT.
No, we
No,
don't.
not
we
you.
don't see you
No. But what?
That way you approved her. Dawn?
Huh?
You have hit on a lot of things we've talked about.
Yeah.
Preference around power makers for salaries. Thank you.
Good thing we're on.
Not only
We're on
that,
recorder, not video.
I had frosting on my
That
lips.
wouldn't have played well to us.
I mean, I looked at other towns. I looked at other towns. I looked at a lot of things. My job, and I know one of your questions is going to be, what has changed in your office? My whole office,
Demographics.
everything has changed in my office.
The laws.
Okay, all right. So,
Yep.
So I will wait for that. But
Okay.
that is part of.
I just want to move
That's
on.
why
from
other
the
Well,
towns-
that's the
So-
question next, is that.
Yeah, so one thing just for you to consider, right, is you can't really compare yourself to other jobs or other people or things like that, right? In my world, they're hiring people now more money than I was paid. And I only started 5 months ago.
Right.
Right? It's just that's the nature of the beast because that's the market. That would be the question to ask is what is the market, which you've done some of that work, you've given to us.
Yeah.
Is this the appropriate salary? The only other question you could really ask would be if you were to leave, what would they have to replace you at? And that's your negotiation stance at that point.
She's got a funny
Yeah.
situation.
She doesn't negotiate her salary.
She's an elected
No,
official.
I know,
There's not
but
so
you know what I'm
much she
saying.
could lead to.
But this is kind of that's what when you're
Right.
talking about. I'm using the term negotiating, but you're
Well, she negotiates her salary with the town meeting.
yes.
Yes.
So what should my salary be? Well, here's that information, and
Right.
here's what it is. But
Right.
but
But
that's,
I don't think I'm off. I mean, above me, I mean, there's 98,000, 92,000. I don't think I am. I'm 72,000 in between those two numbers. So I don't think I'm overinflating. I don't think I'm. I mean,
No.
I'm worth something.
So,
I'm not
so,
arguing.
so, so we can approve, we can't increase your salary. The town floor can and the selectmen can. We can say, we're in agreement with you, we can say whatever.
So that's not true because when I tried to speak at a town meeting,
You should have been able to.
my First Amendment right was violated, and not only that, Robert's Rules of Order and open meeting law, it's, you make a motion, a second, and a discussion, and I was not allowed a discussion.
Well, that's why your requested salary is now going to be presented at town
who
meeting,
knows?
right?
Well, who
It will.
knows?
But
it
our
falls within the criteria.
But I would like the support of you guys, like you supported the assessor and you've supported other departments. I am an honorable woman, and I would like your support and your understanding of what I do and your respect of what I do
So,
and my worth.
I want
And that's
to
all I'm
point out a
asking.
dichotomy with the request.
Is there anybody here that doesn't have enough information to?
Yeah, there's a piece
Consider
of
this.
information that should be considered. I
Okay.
was just talking to literally somebody at oh god, he's my cousin, but he's a professor and he handles economics, and we're talking about this. And right now, the majority, the way people get raises, and this is a horrible truth, is is basically jumping. You don't ever really get a raise within your employment right now. But the problem with Dawn's position is it's elected. So it's not like she can jump from town to town, and I want that to be considered. That's all.
Okay.
Right.
Good point. All right. Don, did you think you gave us all the information that you need to get?
Well, yeah. Michael, anything?
No, that's great.
Okay. So we're going to move on then.
Was it worth staying?
We're not done yet.
Okay, so we're on certification. Do we talk about that? 142, line 142, town clerk.
Yeah, that's I don't have the broken down budget like you have. Do I? Wait a
It's
second.
listed on your.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. That's way down under here. And,
Well, that's how we usually review your budget.
sorry about that. No, I have it right
Need
here.
a cup? Thank you.
So certification, that's the same. It's because I'm CMMC.
Yeah.
And we accepted the Mass General Law that not all departments have accepted this, but yet their department heads get the $1,000, and they shouldn't, but they do because it's been past practice. And I'm not going to rat on anybody, but
Hold on one second.
No, thanks.
Department heads get $1,000 for certification. Is that what you're saying? But it should be done through the selectmen's educational.
No. So in order to get a certification, my certification is this. I have to take that 250 question test, and there's a Mass General Law, and I don't have it, but I can get it for you. I've said this every year, that says, and the town voted to accept that Mass General Law to give me that $1,000.
Yes.
I have to meet certain requirements. Every department has a law similar to that, but the town hasn't accepted it, but they still get the $1,000
It was a law
because
asked
I
for in
get it.
town. Hold on. It's the one. Yes.
It's kind of like that 5, 5, and 5.
No, so,
You got the
hold on a
5,
second.
5,
It's
and
not
5,
just
so you get it. So
it's
you
not
get
just it's not just your department that goes for that law. It is also the assessors, not the
Yeah.
assessors.
Yeah.
It's three
There's several
departments.
of them.
There's three departments.
Treasurer collector who doesn't have certification.
Treasurer collector should have.
Who gets $2,000, but it should only get one. It was put into there. It was rolled into. If you look back a couple.
I remember.
It was.
You can't have that without certification.
So they're rolling the certification into this base salary, $2,000. If you look at the
It got rolled in.
statute-
It did.
It did.
It got rolled in.
It should be.
Yeah.
There should be a reimbursement.
Yeah,
When you get your certification, we will reimburse you up to $1,000.
Right.
That's
He's getting
the way it should be.
$2,000
No, this
because
is
they're
for a year.
saying.
This is not your training
Yeah.
expense. This is
just for
this is
possessing
for
the certification.
having the
So
certification.
the law
That's
is
what
that
it
if you have this certification, and you are so basically,
But the town has to accept it.
which we did
Just make you
accept.
rethink
Mine.
my entire
We accepted all
career
of them.
history.
No.
Absolutely.
We accepted
All my
it
certifications.
under because I asked at town hall floor for the
No. No.
Okay.
Are you
Listen.
serious?
Let's not debate this issue, please.
Okay.
We can talk about this
But
offline.
it hasn't
please.
changed for purposes of our conversation.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
going to change
A
for me.
certification is what the town gives in addition to your base salary for possessing a degree or a training
Right.
certificate.
Correct.
Okay, everybody's in agreement.
The
116, assistant clerk.
for elected officials only. This is an elected official.
No, because the assessor gets it.
Don't know.
Go on.
116, assistant clerk, please.
Too much.
Too much for you.
Yeah, too much.
Assessor should get it.
You know what? I'm going to just make a comment here. I'd hate to do a survey on what assistants get around. You guys are very lucky that he only makes that much money. I'm sorry, but I think that is something that should. I think Michael should come out of the union, and he should be a appointed person and paid a different. He has the same responsibilities as me. If I'm not here, he signs for me. He can go to jail as I can.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. And if you look at, he has the same, and there is Mass General Law that says that he has the same, in my absence, not every other department has, their assistant does not take the role as them. Michael takes the role as me if I am not here.
So is that a full-time role?
Yes.
Okay.
And he signs his own name. He's not signing, he's not using a stamp, he signs his name. So if he submits a birth certificate, he's signing Michael Ganchik. He's held responsible for that.
The treasurer collector comes over with a bond or something that
Yeah.
he's signing.
I mean, we sign everything. anything, if we buy anything in this town, it gets certified through us. Anything that town administrator has to sign that needs certified comes through our office.
So what
Okay,
number are
so-
you gonna say?
Treasurer collector
So-
also gets
Well,
the extra
yeah.
bonus, correct?
Yeah,
So you're-
but, wait one second,
Yeah.
he's not certified, and they've been paying the treasurer collector, even before him, $2,000, because one for the treasurer, one
Can
for
we
the
stick to
collector.
this budget,
But if
please?
you look at the law, it's only $1,000, it's one position.
It's 9:15.
Yeah,
We
we'll
have
be
to
here
stick
till
to this
11.
budget.
That's
We
it.
have to stay
Do you
on
have a
task.
number for Michael?
4.49%
Yeah, it's
increase.
48,484 and 07, that's union, that's,
Did you get a copy of this?
No.
Here.
Because I reached my 10th.
Am I the only one that has a copy of this?
So,
So it's a step
It's
increase.
passed
You
around.
have these?
Okay.
Oh, no, sorry, Rick, you're talking about this piece of paper?
yeah.
Yes.
I'm talking about, you were saying we have a bargain basement pay for Michael we don't pay him enough. Is there a number you're gonna tell us?
This is what she submitted. She's just justifying what is requested for
It's
25.
contractual.
Did you do the same analysis for Michael's salary as you did?
We have to be presenting this budget
union.
as it's been submitted.
I said I
right?
would hate to, I know what it is.
The only conversations we're having are justifications for the numbers that are before you.
Yeah.
Right? You're not changing any of the numbers, are you?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh,
I am.
Yes.
So we're gonna, Michael, I'm not changing, 4848407, but the other ones are just justified, hang on. So then the next one is clerical. That's being reduced because Jen DeVasto left. So now I have a brand new employee, so the salary is reduced to $41,187.66, which reflects a level 2, step 1, okay? And then the next one is overtime, 2,000. That stayed the same. The next one is expense line. It's funny that I asked for $4,000. You know, the expense line has been the same since before my time. And if you took with the inflation rate, if you took $3,500 in 2010, the value of that today would be $4,971. And what has happened is, Michael, because I pay for my own education. So education comes, even though the selectmen have an education line, they pick and choose and they're very selective who gets education. So that being said, Michael was denied education for Springfield for a conference. So my expense line is so tight, and I couldn't pay for Michael's, I mean, I have expenses. The envelopes have gone up, letterhead has gone up. I mean, John Campbell passing away, he always gave us great deals. His son has increased the prices because John basically worked for nothing.
So just so you're aware, we actually have brought this up, the educational expenses and things. We've suggested that be tracked at a central level because it's not being managed consistently.
And who's tracking that?
Well, that's the other thing. So that was our request, was to get our handles on it because it does not seem to be. So I think in general we're agreeing with the idea that yes, it should be there. It's a part of a benefit of working for the town. We just need to figure out how are we doing it now. So I don't see a big issue with what you're saying.
So my expense, my education comes out of my expense line, my conferences. I pay for.
That's a problem. It's not a problem that you're judging.
And let me tell you, with the town clerk job, and I know you guys, we want to get out of here, but I mean, in all fairness, you need to hear, my job changes every day. Watch the news. I mean, elections change every day. Ethics change every day. Public records requests change every day. Open meeting law changes every day. Most things in this town hall come through my office. I need to be educated. That's the end. Me or Michael, we need to go to conferences and be up. I don't go there and have prime rib dinner and dance the night away. Michael's in a 3-year thing. He gets up at 7 in the morning, if not earlier. You're at breakfast. He's in class by 8, and he goes to classes till 7 at night. It is grueling.
I know.
So, you said one of the questions we asked is, what about the law has changed that increases your budget, or does it? If you are denied education, aren't you allowed to come back to finance committee and say, this is education that we need? Is it, you can come back to the finance committee.
Yeah, well, you know what? When I brought this to the town administrator, I wasn't told that. I don't know that. I don't know that. I'll be honest with you. So we ended up finding money, and I used what Michael did is instead of staying over, he drove to Springfield and he drove back in one day. That's a lot, and then going to class all day long.
No.
That's a lot to ask for somebody. That being said, we paid for it out of the Board of Registrars because it was all about elections. We got a huge election year. Michael needed to go. Somebody needed to go. And I wasn't driving up the same day and driving back. I'm sorry. He offered to do that. You know, we paid his mileage and stuff like that, but it came out of the Board of Registrars. And we justified it because the Board of Registrars runs, they're part of elections. And so that whole expense line that pays for Board of Registrar's expenses paid for him to go to school.
Can I introduce a flaw in our theory of central education with elected officials?
Well, I think that even discussing it before it's even a policy decision is really not
Yeah.
for this board.
Well, just so
Not
you
for
know
this-
where my expenses
This is not
are.
for this
Yeah.
budget discussion, really. You know, it's important. I don't want to say it isn't. We need to fix
not
it. It's
relevant
broken.
right now.
It isn't.
Okay.
Yeah. So my expenses should really be $5,500, not $4,000. But you know, we have no money, and so I buy my own paper towels. I buy my own cleaner. I put my name on it. Property of Dawn. Everything doesn't it, Michael? It has Property of Dawn. Everything.
Can't touch it, Michael.
Yeah. If I buy it, I put my name on it. So.
One ply at a time, she says.
Right, so there you go. So that's kind of like, it gives you an idea of, I'm not over asking when I ask for $500 more dollars. All right? And then the next thing is the town records restoration. That's keeping your records up. You want to keep your records up?
Do we have a grant for that? No, I thought we had a grant for that one. No, okay, forget about it.
No.
You can apply to
I have-
digitize
Oh, that
records,
was
but we
it.
don't digitize our records because they're public records and some of them are confidential and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
You're right, that's the one.
Justin's been in touch with me about that, so.
Okay, so any other questions to Department 9, Town Clerk? We've gone through all the budget lines there. Does anybody need any other information on any of those budget lines?
But Rosemary does need, because she wants to know what has changed real quick. I got
Yes, I
presentations.
do need this.
So this is what early voting, this is what voting by mail used to look like. All right? This was the normal vote by mail process. This is it today. Okay? All right? This is what my office, I have to send out an email and tell the Board of Selectmen that nobody can enter my office because it becomes an election. I have ballots, exposed ballots. I don't want anybody in my office. And that's it. And they are not allowed to enter it. If they sneak in, what can I do? I don't have a place to store ballots. I have a small little vault. Come take a look. The next thing is what we have real quick. I'll just go over these real quick because I know you want to rush. So
I don't want to rush. I want everybody to get the information. Don't
So then
get
we
me
have the
wrong.
Votes Act. What used to happen when people would go to the RMV or when they went to the Department of Transitional Assistance, things like that, the high school, people have the ability to register people to vote. It comes to us electronically. We have online voter registration now, so people can do it, register to vote ma.com, and that comes through to us electronically. Before, when you went to the Registry of Motor Vehicles, you had to check off a block and say, I want to register to vote. That's not there no more. So then for many years it was, you checked off a block, I don't want to register to vote. So we started seeing a higher increase of voter registration, which includes a lot more paperwork, mailing, time for that to happen because people didn't check off that I don't want to register to vote. So we got duplicates. Well, you know, whether you're duplicate or not, we still have to, sometimes people change their middle names. They don't even know what they're doing, some people, be honest with you. Now, with the Votes Act, there is no more box. So everybody who goes to the Registry of Motor Vehicles comes back through us. Whether you're getting a handicap plate, anything that you do at the registry, registering a car, you get sent to us, and that we get calls constantly. I didn't register to vote. Were you at the RMV? Did you do this? Did you do that? People's middle names have changed. People don't like it. We get people writing letters they don't want to. So we talked about numbers today because I kind of want to give you guys the right numbers. We probably before got maybe 40 voters a week-ish before the no check. Yeah, and then now we are about 80 a day. And it's a lot of work. You have to make sure they're not duplicates. You have to check their parties. You have to check their middle initials. You have to, it's not just a click of a button. It might come to us electronically, but it doesn't end there. It starts there. So we have that. We have the online voter registration. We have, how about this, the 16-year-olds that can register to vote. They have to sit in our queue for 2 years. And we have to make sure that when they turn 18, that we register them to vote. They don't have to worry about it. We have to worry about it. That has increased our workload immensely. I don't want to all be about elections, but the state has done that to us, with all this voting stuff. I mean,
Do we have examples? I can go and get them elsewhere. That how other towns financially adapted in their overall
so
budget.
I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you Hanover. Go look at Hanover and see what her office hours
I actually
are.
have her numbers, right?
Yeah. Her office hours are by appointment only. Okay?
Huh.
And there's a lot of other people that have done the same thing. I use 2 senior helpers. With this early voting, I have to hire election workers at $15 an hour because I don't want to pay him $40 an hour. To do, like we have to file things. We have
Hold on a second. I don't know how that equates. I think if there's a change in the law and a change in demographic, a change in everything, and it changes your workload, no matter what, we should be able to sample, and it should be for every single town. We should be able to sample a handful of towns with the same demographics or similar, and see how it's changed their budget.
So I'll tell you one of the ways. For instance, me, I work on the weekends, but I don't get extra money. And you will see all town clerks, because it's our nature. I don't work this job, and I'm not patting myself on the back. But I'll be honest with you, on a presidential year, I'll be in here first thing in the morning, and I'll leave at 11 at night. The light will be on. I'll be in here on the same with him. He gets paid, and he said, I feel guilty going to the bank cashing my check because
That was 1 year.
Well,
No more.
We were shorthanded, you know what I'm saying?
He's like, I feel guilty because, we're working together, and this is a presidential year. It's going to be crazy, and it's all extra voting hours. I come in on Fridays and Saturdays, and that's who picks up the slack is the town clerks, or they use high school students, or they use we are creative. We use high school students. I've gotten students from the VOTEC. I've gotten students from the high school to come in and work early voting. That's how we do it. That's how we've been doing it. So,
You don't think we'll see more increases in other people's budgets?
who knows? I don't care about anybody else's budget. I care about Whitman. I'm sorry.
No, I know.
I'm
really,
showing you the salaries, and I'm being challenged. So,
no, you're not being challenged by the salaries, not
Yeah.
at once.
Yeah.
The same premise goes for your salary
Yeah.
fairly.
Yeah.
That would also go through increased.
And then they budget
costs.
differently. So I did ask like other town clerks, but like they don't take, as far as their budget expense line, they don't take education out of there. They have a whole education. We asked Hanson
Then
how
we
they
need
do
to
theirs.
something like that.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah, that's a lot of work, and I really don't have time for it. Next thing, I'm going to just show you. This is where we are today. I get letters from the Office of Intelligence Analysis. It's Department of Homeland Security and things like that. Fentanyl letters mailed to election officials. You know what? People say, why Whitman? You know what I say? Why not Whitman? Right? I think about this. Michael thinks about this. If he opens something that has fentanyl in it, it's happened. This isn't like they're not giving us this, and we've got a lot of education on this because it hasn't happened, that it could happen. It has happened. And I asked the fire chief, and he has followed through with it, to have Narcan. I actually want Narcan training, because like Michael said, I don't want to wait 4 minutes for the fire department. I want to be Narcan right away if I open a piece of mail that has potentially fentanyl in it and I'm on the floor dying. That's silly for elections. I think it's crazy, but it's real. This is what I'm getting, okay? I'm just going to show you real quick what has changed. This is 2023. These are just state requirements. We're required to stay late for many different things. I mean, I can give you a copy of this. Nomination papers available from the Secretary of State's office. So we have to work for the state. We have to be open till 5 o'clock on different days. Now that they've made voter registration 10 days before, that falls on our days off. So we have to work full days on our days off for voter registration, because now it's 10 days before. If you go back 10 days from a Tuesday, it's,
Saturday.
yes. So we have to work Saturdays. We don't have a choice. This is for FY24. These are all extra hours. When Rosemary says, what are extra hours? Who are doing these hours? I have $2,000 in overtime. That will compensate for some of it, but not all of these. So I have to do it. Okay?
Did we increase the election worker salaries? Did we increase?
Yes, everybody went to $15 minimum wage.
Yeah, minimum wage.
And how did that affect your budget? Did we increase your budget?
It's in the town meeting and election budget.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, you know, there's like, 6 pages here versus 2 pages from last year. I'm just saying, like, you know, these are, you know, this is Rosemary. I just wanted to show you this. These are, and I stopped collecting them. These are all job postings for different towns, you know, populations and how much they're paying, whether it be an assistant or a town clerk. People are leaving. The salaries aren't there. You want to keep Michael. You want to keep me. I mean, yeah. I just think it's crazy.
Well, so, you know, I think you brought up a lot of great points, right? And I think one of the things that I would do in that situation is definitely track your hours. If you're working beyond the expected, I'm expecting 40 hours a week. Is that what the town normally does, or 35 here?
31.
31, okay. So whatever it is beyond that, that needs to be tracked, because what that does, it calls for the ability to have a real sit-down discussion with the town administrator and the selectmen and say, look, you know, I'm averaging 60 hours.
She doesn't negotiate with them.
Yeah.
No, but it would be a budget piece, whoever. But I'm saying you have to go to the town administrator and say, look, here's what it's actually costing in time. We need to get, you know, have people be able to do that, or a salary to be able to hire, et cetera. But that's it sounds like you have numbers there that would justify the ability to
Even a
have people
salaried
helping you.
employee over 40 hours consistently has laws under there's labor laws that protect you. You can't be asked to.
Right, so we're not making a decision on your
Yeah, no.
budget submission
So I just wanted to explain
I know.
some of the
I
things
know.
that have changed.
But there are-
Public records requests. So if they ask for it electronically, there's no charge, and we have to do it. So people ask for lots and lots of, and Rosemary can attest, and I don't know if you've asked for anything, but
I never get them.
you get them from me.
You get them from you only. That's
Yeah,
it.
and I do them in a timely manner, and I do them, and I record them, and you know, the bylaws. We are in charge of the bylaws, submitting everything to the AG's office, to municipal data bank. If we accept any laws, we have to, you know, my office. We have a new person being trained, and she is overwhelmed. And she's been in I know, Michael laughing. What she said to me was, I never knew how much you guys did. Like like business certificates. We jump from one thing to a raffle and bazaars. If people have a, you know, you don't even think of things that we do, and it's so hard trying to train her, because it's not like we do one day of collecting trash bills, or one day of, you know, you could have somebody come and vote. You could have somebody come and pull a business certificate. You could have somebody come and ask a question about proof of residence, register to vote. I mean, who knows? We get, name some things, Michael.
We're like vets, you know. We don't know what the animal that's going to come in.
Yeah.
Right.
Could be
It's
chicken,
true.
could be a cow.
sure.
We don't know, and yeah, and we have to index everything. All the minutes that get sent to us, we have to keep them, so that if somebody requests a minute from the planning board, and you know, even you guys, the finance committee, they submit you guys minutes, so somebody doesn't have to come to you. You're not a board that's here all the time. They can come to the town clerk and say, "Can I see the finance committee?" And we provide that stuff for them. We index everything, so when people wanted to know about the pool, and we sub-index things, so people can get that information. We have that information, and we make it accessible.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that the department definitely is a service that the town would be hurt without. So, and we appreciate the
Posting
work that you do.
meetings, I mean, that's like even huge. It's a time consuming, and you know that, you know, and
Yeah.
Because you consume our time.
Yes, most of it.
and things have to be posted right. And if they're not, we get a lot of flack when we try to correct people and stuff like that. Trust me, we get a lot of flack. So
All right.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah. So is there anything else, anybody else have any other questions for Don?
So then we got the Board of Registrars. I think that went up. The person's listed book went up because it's going up. Census supplies, like I said, I have no. I don't have stuff. And by law, we have to send out the census. There's a certain process that we have to do. We send it out to 6,500 households, and then we do a second mailing, which we're ready to do. I think we have 2,000 households that we have to mail out a second mailing. We have to inactivate voters that don't return them. When we inactivate them, we have to provide them with a postage paid envelope, state law. Things like that. We need to have those inside envelopes. We need the outside envelopes. We need the inactivation notices. We need, $2,500 is cheap. Most towns actually outsource this, and they pay lots of money. And I could do surveys for days. I'm not doing surveys for days. You need, as a department head, I'm telling you. I talk to these people. I see them at conferences. I'm telling you, you're getting a bargain for what you have here, for what we do for work. And, in those census come back, we make changes of occupations, just dates of birth, anything. When people have babies, we add them on. When people die, we take them off. And it's a lot of work. Yvonne Evans, love her to pieces. Volunteers. And I say volunteer because based on the hours that she works, she makes $4 an hour doing this. But she loves doing it, right? Crazy, isn't that crazy?
I thought she got the senior.
No,
Oh.
she doesn't own a home.
Oh.
She works for $4 an hour because she loves to do the census. She was the assistant town clerk. It's the truth.
How can we do that when we said that we have to pay?
Because it's a stipend. She's a hired.
A stipend.
And she chooses to work the amount of hours.
Yes.
She chooses. Okay, so you pay for.
She had her hip replaced. Michael was bringing stuff home, leaving it outside of her door. She would do what she could do from home, put it back in the basket, and Mike would bring it to work. So when I tell you you're getting a bargain, I'm not lying. Okay,
so for Board of Registrars, Department 10, questions, census supplies.
I have one up on.
So the town administrator's budget has $2,000 for census supplies. Have you met with the town administrator to tell her that you needed an additional $500?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I went up 20 for person listed books. I went up to 255. Yeah. And what that includes, because it was always 2,000, and then when we had to cut our budgets, that's where you get the 1,745 for a strange number. It needs to be back up to 2,000. Those are the person's listed books. What that 2,000 pays for is the file goes to Danny at Customized Data. He compiles it and makes a book, and then it goes to John Campbell, and he prints however many books that we have enough money for. We looked into Hanson makes their own. It's not worth it. We only pay $2,000 for like 150 books. People want the books. People buy the books. The books, you have to be careful with that as far as prices because they are public record. So you could potentially be in violation because you can only charge 5 cents a page. If we charged 5 cents a page, it would be less than $15. So we charge $15 a book. But a lot of people get them for free. You guys get them for free. Departments come and sign them for free. The state library in Boston, they get them for free. The churches get them for free. They have to sign.
To our town library?
They get them, yeah.
So you could direct people if they don't want to buy it right to the library?
Yeah. Yeah. And so the thing is when somebody purchases it from me, they have to sign for it. So that's even a citizen because it's protecting people. It's an old law, but it's a law. So like I can't electronically send a person's listed, and I will not send a person's listed electronically because they have to sign for it, and it says it in the law.
Do you have to sign to see it at the library?
Nope.
Okay. Anything else? Department 10. We're moving on.
But I think it has to do with seniors and people.
Sure.
Targeting seniors.
Oh,
I think that's what it's for.
Okay. Any other questions on any of that?
They do target us.
All right, Dawn.
No.
We appreciate you coming in.
Oh wait, I do have one more thing. This is
Columbo here.
This is Columbo.
This is good work. Thank
So,
you. This was
so
great
today I ordered
At least
lunch.
she's not smoking a cigar.
Yeah, right.
You gotta get it.
I ordered lunch, right? And I wish I knew when this menu was from. I went to JL Deli, and actually Carol O'Brien ordered a roast turkey sub for her and her husband. This menu said it was $7.50. Today, it's $12.20. So I think with respect to my expense line, only wanting to go up like for $50, that's ridiculous. When a sub,
A sub is $12. Where?
$12.20 at JL's Deli, a turkey sub, $12.20.
It's worth every penny of it.
I know. I love their roast beef, but anyways, I'm just saying, like, inflation's out there. What do they say? What's going to be the most expensive car in 2024? You want to know what the answer is?
Electric car.
No,
Matchbox?
a shopping cart.
Oh,
Minority.
All right, well, thank you for the work that you guys do. Thanks for coming in, and if
Yeah,
there's anything that comes
and
up.
I really, honestly, you know, those cupcakes were kind of a joke because we joke with them and everything like that.
I know.
But
I raise a candy dish every, just the familiarity with your department, just to let this board know. I go there every week to post our meetings, but I sit there because there's a lot of information that comes out of that
She
office.
deserves this, an increase for dealing with you.
Hey, I hosted a state presentation, 135 people. It was 10 municipalities came, and the state came and did a presentation, and I provided. It came out of my pocket, food and water for everybody.
Can I say something
I'd-
on a personal?
I'd like to get to the meeting minutes.
I went to a recount in another town
Yes.
and did a recount in another town, and I did a recount with Don and Whitman. Holy camole,
Yeah.
did you do a clean, nice recount. I mean, we had discussions on things that I wish I had reviewed, but in terms of quality, consistency, protection of the voters, material,
And you know
it
what?
was seamless in Whitman.
I don't care who gets mad at me, and a lot of people in this
I'm not going to
town
make a mention there.
get mad at me. And you guys all know that. I know.
That's crazy.
All right, we're gonna get the.
I am what I am,
They haven't
but I
even
am
had
going to
dinner
make
yet
sure
over here.
that this town is
Come on.
protected.
Talking about
Did you
food.
get
Thank you.
cupcake?
She could use
They
a large
can give you
roast
a
beef from
cupcake.
JL's right now.
I'm giving her mine.
I want a roast beef sandwich.
I know, JL's roast beef salad.
Okay, thank you very much for coming in.
We did
And I would like to.
No, we have one more set of meeting minutes to do, and I'd like to do them because Elizabeth has prepared them for us. I have no edits on January 23rd meeting minutes. Page 669.
You went that?
You went to the planning board partially. You came in. You
Yeah.
came in late.
Yeah, got it. I don't-
So the first thing is that we tabled the animal control till this meeting. We talked about old business items, and we talked about fiscal 25 budget. Just because we had no budget manager meetings that night, we just read the communication on page 670, and we adjourned at 7:51. It was a very, very basic meeting, and I think the minutes reflect everything that transpired. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept. Go ahead.
sorry.
Almost made it.
I'm not sure if this is a question on page 670. In underfunding E and D?
E&D.
Excess and deficiency.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that was Elizabeth asking a question, if she had that right. Okay, never mind. All right, back to your regular thing. Go,
Okay.
get us out of here.
Motion to accept.
Yep.
You already
Second.
have it. We're voting.
All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, looking at the agenda, we're probably just gonna breeze through the old business items. Capital Committee, no meeting.
We met. I still don't have a list of items. I'm not happy about it.
And the Agreement Amendment Committee,
We meet next 2 weeks.
and the Middle School Building Committee.
We meet February 27th.
Can I
All
make it a request that we begin to acquire best financial practices that Whitman has used to funding schools be also utilized equitably in Hanson, that we are looking at the combined yield effort, and that both towns make the same effort towards funding education, that they are both truly using those aggregate models and best financial practices as if they were individual towns.
Is this to incorporate into Agreement Amendment
Into the
Committee?
agreement for all aspects,
So the regional agreement.
all aspects of financing schools,
Okay,
combined yield effort.
and the Public Works Department Building Committee meets next week.
I should say that the capital committee, I told Dawn Essen that we wanted them to come here on the 27th. The next capital committee meeting is the 22nd. So I should have a list of the capital items by February 22nd, but the warrant closes next week, and I have no idea what capital warrant articles.
That's crazy.
Yes.
All right, and the audit is ongoing. I understand
No,
fiscal.
it's typical. I don't know that it's crazy.
No, I've had more
It's typical of their behavior.
Anything else to report under the 25 budget for this meeting? Seeing none. There's one communication from the Mary Beth Carter. Just be advised that the Board of Selectmen voted to open the warrant on January 23rd and voted to close it at the end of the business on Tuesday, February 6th. So all requests for article placement on the annual town meeting warrant must be submitted to this office by Tuesday, February 6th. So we should certainly should have your information by then.
No, I won't.
That would be crazy. They have to have the capital articles ready for the warrant.
Or they don't.
Well, last minute, so you really don't have to.
All I can say is that I've asked, both in writing and in person, numerous times, and I have not had a productive response.
All right. Seeing Ralph with his hand up, I'll ask him what he wants.
Well, I was wondering if did we skip over the reserve fund transfer for DPW?
Well, Mary Beth was talking about the reserve fund budget. I did ask her if she had received a request from the DPW, because they did mention they need to do some things for the armory
Okay.
to get it ready for the DPW to temporarily occupy that building while the DPW gets,
Well, their
torn
building
down.
gets fleshed
So
out.
I think some point heaters for hot water in the bathrooms and that type of stuff has to be done. So they have no funding. So the only way is going to be a reserve fund transfer. So expect to see that next week. I put it on the agenda so we can hold it over.
Do you have
Okay.
any idea how much it's going to be?
No idea.
Okay.
Well, it can't exceed 35,000 because that's all we got.
All right.
All right. So once that reserve fund transfer request comes, I will email it out so you'd have a chance to look at it before next week as well. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I make a note on
Second.
something to ask to put into a request to ask?
Sure.
Currently, under the Finance Committee handbook, it is, and I didn't do this in public meeting, so I'm going to, with the
You
recording.
want to turn off the recorder?
I want the recorder on for this
Oh.
one.
Uh-oh.
The Finance Committee handbook states that a town should be between 10 and 75% funded with outside support from state and federal government. Those supports are heavily, not completely, but heavily weighted on the wealth index of the town. We are below average of wealth, and we are not even meeting the 10%. I would ask the plan forward to ensure the support financially that our our citizens deserve. There is under the pilot program law a section in which you can assess how much of your taxes go towards the total budget, and we are pretty heavy on just our levy
Okay.
paying towards it.
Well, I think you've already brought this to the attention of the town administrator and the board of
Oh, I want
selectmen.
it on public. Never to the no. This is the first
Yeah.
time I've done it.
No, you did.
Oh,
You very clearly
She was here.
said
We have to vote.
yes.
Yeah, but, okay.
All in favor of adjournment? So moved. Thank you all.